Yes.
It's a common theme of house buildings this year.
I noticed, there must have been the inspections, yes.
So this is like, almost like a one-off.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. Oh, and Bruce is not coming. Just got that email. So would anyone like to make a, well, actually, I wonder if there's going to be another line number, because that was considered a supply.
It would be, yeah, you just have to move it in the right account, and when you guys readjust it, you'll have it.
Right.
So it's already done on the, so what do you mean by that? Because it's already done on the file.
On your official version, yeah.
It is?
Yeah, I moved it.
Joni's way ahead,
We went through everything the other day.
Oh, so you put it in?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's the nursery school line item. What's this, 64? Well, the total will be 2,350. Somebody like to make that motion?
So moved.
2,350.
What did I say?
202, you said 2,250.
2,350.
2,000 for purchase of services.
And then
and
350
then
for
350
supplies.
for supplies, for a total of 2,350.
And that's what you're making the motion on? Okay. And Karen, you made the second?
Yeah, second.
Any discussion? All in favor? That's
Can I
7-0.
ask one question, and you might need to direct it to the town administrator? So on the very first line item, do we need to include it or not? Did the selectmen vote to give themselves the stipend or not?
No, they didn't. No,
Okay, so then we don't need to include it.
no.
So
It could
The
be
top
removed.
line, you
the
mean?
top line,
Okay.
yeah.
No, they did not. A minute.
Was it close or was it unanimous?
I wasn't there. Jim was there, right?
I think it was unanimous.
I think it was unanimous. They would like someone to take a look at it, but they weren't prepared to impose it upon themselves or grant it to themselves.
All right. Then we can turn to the warrant.
Yeah.
Whew. Wow, there's only 46 articles. That's not so bad.
Get out.
Let's see how many we can get through.
Want to do a special first, since it's,
I'm ready to move Article 1 of the annual town meeting.
Oh, there's a couple of numbers missing on the special, like the police stuff, so, I don't know. We could really only do about 3. Yeah, let's go right to the regular.
I move
And-
we approve Article 1 as written.
Is there a second? Discussion? All in favor? 7-0.
You're on the annual and special.
Annual. Right, today's the 18th, right? Yes.
Well, Article 2 is kind of pro forma in that
But
we
we don't
get
have
that report.
But we don't have the report yet. I think we usually wait till we actually see that
Yeah,
report.
okay,
Yeah, I checked today, there was no report yet.
Yeah.
so then we might as well wait. Are the CPC coming?
I've been trying to reach them.
I had a question
Sent
on
her
that.
multiple emails.
Oh, okay, so I didn't know if we should handle any of their things, that's all.
So my question on Article 2, and I read last year's article, it's like, this is almost a photocopy of it.
I'm sure it
I don't know if
is.
Yeah.
just as a comment, like the 4 pillars, if you will, of preservation, one of them is missing. I don't see anything here about recreation. And I was-
Recreation wasn't one of the pillars.
It isn't actually one of the,
Okay,
It's only
because when you
3.
read there, it talks about 4 different categories, one of which is recreation. They specifically address recreation. And I'm just wondering
The
why
law
they're,
only has 3, that's,
Huh?
the law only has 3.
I know that, I'm looking at it, and that's why I'm saying, when they do their write-up, when I read their, whatever, the document on their, on the website, it talked about, in that order, and included with the whole section was recreation. So I was just curious. I'm not, it wasn't in this article last year. Again, recreation wasn't mentioned in that either, so I don't know. I don't,
I think that's probably
that
why,
the-
because the law doesn't actually,
In their report, they don't mention recreation.
No.
Open space, historic and community housing.
right.
but I went on the website and looked, I think it was in the charter or whatever it was originally,
I looked through the
and it went on, and recreation was mentioned in detail. You did too, Karen?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
Okay.
I put it in.
I mean, it's allowed use of the funds, but it's not part of the categories in the law. So we should probably skip over community preservation articles.
All of them?
Well,
Okay. I just didn't know.
I mean, for example, the administration went up from, I think it's usually 15 to 22. I'd like to know why.
That's a good question.
I mean, I know they have a new hire, but I can't imagine that there's that many meetings.
And have we spent that money in the past? Because I thought that was a typical number we put in there, but
Right.
we didn't necessarily spend anywhere near that amount.
Yeah, it's just there in case they need it. But your report should have it, the one you get from the town accountant.
Oh, I forgot to call
Yeah, we
him.
didn't, you didn't ask Chris for the report? Okay.
Would that show up in there? Because that's usually just the general ledger. Is it
No,
also
it has
include-
the special account. Well, it depends what version of the report you get. There's a report with all this, like, special funds at the back end of it.
Yeah, I don't know. I'll try to remember for tomorrow.
Can we do Article 5, though, or do you want to wait for that as well?
Ooh, there's a typo there. In the title, restoration, gravestone restoration.
Did you pick up on that?
So I don't have a problem with Article 5,
That's-
but and this is an ongoing thing that gets funded.
Yeah.
But it's just, the article's just kind of broad. It'd be nice to know exactly where they're targeting this. Is this the old cemetery across the street? Are they going somewhere else? It's just.
It's always the one across the street.
Any 15 to 20 road.
It says Old Burial Ground in North Cemetery. Oh, no, it doesn't say it here, but it did last year.
No, it's on the back. It's on, you have to turn the page, it's on the next page.
It's
The
there.
page breaks out.
Oh, okay.
It's there. It's always there.
North Cemetery, no burial.
Yeah, okay.
Which
Be
article
nice
is
if it
that?
was in that thing, but,
Well, how many years is this gonna
Yep.
Right,
it's in the
and-
go on
summary.
for?
And that was
It's
my
been
other
going
question.
for a long, long
There's no
time.
summary on
at
this.
some point, it'd be nice to have an
the
inventory,
next
what's
page.
been done and what's left to
Next
to
page
get
is
a-
Article 6.
Yeah, let's just
Penny
ask
comes
them.
in
Yeah.
for all of these.
But this is not Penny, this is a
Unless I
different
erase
group.
it.
It is.
No,
No, it's
Article
community
Oh, this
preservation.
CPC?
Might have erased it because it's there.
Okay.
Hold on.
But there's
Yeah.
usually another group that manages in
Well, they
town.
do
It's
it,
in-
but
yeah.
CPC is the
Go to the
one
next page.
source of the money.
Article 6?
Article 5.
So then we could go right
Go
to
to Article
Article
6.
11 then.
Yeah.
Erased it, I've got it.
I don't know how I can do that.
6 is
But I've got it.
CPC,
I'll make the
7
motion
is
to
C.
approve Article 11 as written.
Wait a minute, sorry,
We skipped over the CPC ones.
all of them.
Well, hopefully she's coming, so,
Okay,
or somebody's coming.
so you don't want to do 5? All right,
Questions?
6, 7.
So Kevin made a motion on Article 11.
Second.
Karen seconded. Any discussion?
Yeah, I want to just find it for a second,
It
okay.
really shouldn't be since we've already done the budget. One never knows, right?
This is not cooperating. I might have to go to my iPad.
Would you like an old-fashioned piece of paper, Jim?
No, I'm good.
Maybe we can change the summary box that basically, at the end of it, for
Article
fiscal
11.
year 2020, as reflected in the line item budget or something like that, because basically that's what you're voting.
Are you referring to 11?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, I'm all set.
You all set? Okay.
Noted.
Thank you.
So, any discussion on that one? All in favor? 7-0.
And I'm sorry, Karen, did you second?
Yes.
I did.
I don't have any of the
And while it's pretty clear, I mean, it
don't?
wouldn't hurt to put in the
the
total
boxes are
amount
done.
of the budget in that line item as well, in that box.
Say that again?
Wouldn't hurt to put the total dollar amount
As
of the budget.
reflected in the line item budget totaling, that's why I see
Yeah.
that's pretty good. The more information we put in there, the better off we all are.
Yep.
Something to do with the program.
We will note that. We were not able to always keep our summaries last year.
Why, the only thing that belongs to anybody else but us is the actual wording of the article.
We know that.
Okay.
Somebody else didn't.
Article 12. This is the annual one for road construction, repairs and maintenance. I believe it's,
It's the exact same amount as
It's the
last year.
same amount as
It
last
is.
year.
I checked that because I was curious.
checked that.
So I'd recommend we approve that as written.
Second.
any further discussion? All in favor? 7-0.
Probably should ask this earlier. The selectmen review these warrants today?
They did,
They already did.
The Board of Selectmen review these warrant articles today?
last
A week or
week.
so ago. Their motions are in there, if you hadn't seen them, Mike, under the board of Selectmen.
That's right, that's why, I'm with you.
All right. Why is
Good.
mine messed up here a little bit? Hold on. Oh, my goodness. Sorry. Okay. 13, Article 13, the Public Access Department.
I have a
Right, remember, this was new of, what, 2 or 3 years ago?
Yeah, well, it wasn't, it was after I left, it was new, so that's why I have a question.
Oh.
Is this person considered a department head as well?
I don't think he is.
I don't think he is either. It sounds like we've had that discussion, too.
I feel like we've had that
Yeah.
discussion,
Okay.
too.
I don't know.
But he reports to you, correct? Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
So he's not a department head? Okay.
But he is a town employee.
Right.
So I think, so in other words, they're not, this person is not entitled to the merit pool and all that stuff.
I don't know to that detail.
I think the
That's
answer
where
is
I'm
no. I know that's where you're going. I think the answer is no.
I thought the answer was no.
Yeah,
Okay, that's right,
I think we have brought this up
we
before.
did, and I didn't bring my book from last,
this
my
is for the
notes.
new person, you know?
That's right,
Well, this is
Ken.
new.
I know, this is new to you, I know.
But we did discuss it,
I do remember discussing it, though.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Oh, wait a minute, do we have a motion? I'm sorry, we don't have a motion yet.
Recommend we,
Question, yeah.
I'm wondering if I'm overlooking in the town charter a reference to public access at all, but public access as a department.
I don't think it's in the charter, but this was new a few years ago, because I think that, wasn't the law changed or some? Trying to remember.
It's cable TV revenue.
It's the cable TV. And for, straining my brain, it was, it had to be broken out for some reason a few years ago, probably 2 or 3. I think this might be its 3rd year.
I think it is the third year.
So,
I'm not trying to write copy. I'm just wondering if, to the uninitiated anyway, and that could be someone who just attends the town meeting, having lived in town for about a week, and sees department and thinks, well, it's on a level with fire department and Department of Public Works. So without trying to write copy, I'm just wondering if it's a public access service, maybe. That still wouldn't put it in the charter. As far as I mean, I'm looking, we all have it, I guess. I just don't see it. And I don't want to be overly acute about it, but later on, it could be questioned, and so I just
you can
thought
change
I'd
it.
surface the matter for whatever disposition the committee might make, or the TA, or the
I
select.
actually like service. I think that's a much better idea, because that's where, you know, department head, and is he eligible for the department head merit and all that
Oh,
stuff.
you mean not put
In
department?
Yeah.
Article 13, the title should be public access service, or services, or however you want to do it, but it shouldn't be department.
If one day, it doesn't hurt sometimes to ask what-if questions. One day, an organizer from the State, County, and Municipal Workers Union arrives, and one thing leads to another, and there's an election, and a department is a department. How come you've been paying a tenth what all the other, that kind of colloquy begins? So, it's just a what-if question, but when you take away the if, it starts being very real.
And I'd like to point out, in the actual body of the article, they just call it public access. They don't have the word department at all.
And on the website, it's called Cable Advisory Committee and Public Access Television, and Bill Butcher is the production coordinator.
I believe he's the main,
He's
Yeah.
the-
He's a main employee, but it doesn't say he's a manager, it says he's a production coordinator.
So why don't we just cross out the word department, leave it Article 13, public access? I mean, that doesn't require a vote, that's us.
It has to be public access something. Right, because
Okay.
it's not records, it's just TV.
I see. I forget what PEG stands for, public.
Public educational government.
Oh, okay.
I was going to ask the question, we've gotten that answer before, but I,
So why not just call it that, Public PEG Access and Cable Fund? And then, the other question I have about the actual language in the thing, and I would actually vote to amend the article, is it shouldn't say estimated budget for fiscal year '20, because that is the budget for fiscal year '20. It's not estimated, that's it. That's what you're voting to set.
Okay.
does it say yes? Oh,
Did it say that last year?
It did.
So, sorry, what did you want to amend it to?
I would strike the words
Just-
estimated budget for fiscal year '20, and you would just have, for the expenses of public access as follows, boom, salaries and wages, longevity, boom, 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 boom.
Okay, the whole thing, okay.
Because we're not estimating at this point, we're actually setting.
revenue may be an estimate, but this is not.
Right.
Okay.
And the same thing would hold true in 14 too. So if you want, I mean, I'd make a motion to amend Article 13 to strike the words estimated budget for fiscal year '20 is, colon, and otherwise approve the article as written.
That would include the title.
No, well, no, because the title belongs to us. The only thing that really doesn't belong to us and we have to amend is the verbiage of the actual warrant article itself.
Okay.
So you're proposing to remove that estimated budget for FY 2020? That whole,
FY '20 is.
that whole phrase?
Right.
Colon.
Okay.
So again, I go back to, that's the warrant article. You're talking about the language in the article that's controlled by the selectmen. If it's not amended in the
amend it.
final article to take it out, then our motion, the recommendation of the Finance Committee is to, we have to go back and find the wording that we've done before. You would repeat this motion down below.
It's the language I've been using for years. To amend the article to strike the words estimated budget for fiscal year '20 is.
Okay,
and
that'll
to
work.
otherwise approve the article as written.
That'll work.
And that's what I have written down. Thanks, Kevin. I'll second.
Is it your thought to retain the word department?
No, I would absolutely agree with you in changing it, and maybe just call it PEG access and cable related, and stop right there.
Why are you objecting to the word department, though? I mean, he's an
Well, because I'm
employee of
with
the
Larry,
town.
because I had the confusion too. That's why I was asking, is this guy considered a department head? You know, I was going with Joni, is he eligible for the department head merit pool? We're being misleading if we call it a department.
And the matter of being countenanced by the charter as a department.
I mean, I think in some respects, he is a department, because he does oversee the other people who do the camera work, I'm assuming,
Yeah,
who are paid, I believe, some sort of stipend, right?
but he's not a department in the sense of the town charter.
No, he's
He
not.
doesn't get, yeah, right.
But he gets benefits.
He does, but he doesn't, but he's not included in the merit.
Right.
Oh, I think that was Kevin's main question, really. But then again, as Jeff said, this is the revenue, right?
But I think overriding that is what Larry said. He's not defined as that in the charter. And that's the overriding document to all this anyways.
Sure, the charter supersedes bylaws.
Treasure in the back? No, it's in the,
But we can make that.
It's in the handout
title,
book.
can we not?
I think,
Yes,
yes.
Yes, yeah,
we don't need to vote for that, we'll
right,
just make it.
right.
We could do the PEG, et cetera. We could use the word service. We could just call it something beyond public access, because public access could refer to
Public
all
records.
those records that are in the attic at the
Okay.
public
So we can just
safety
change that.
building, where 1948
Right.
is next to
That way we can.
1974. You know, so.
It's in the same century.
Yeah,
right.
Oh, we have a motion, do we
I
have a
don't-
second?
Yeah, I second.
Oh, I'm sorry, that's right, you did, I'm sorry. Mike, I'm sorry.
I don't know that I'm swayed one way or either one way or the other about whether the department's in or not. I do have an opinion that the wording of the articles and so forth belongs to the selectmen. Yeah, so we don't, I don't think we have the ability to change the wording of the warrant articles,
We absolutely do.
because they will vote and post that. It's not us voting and posting warrants
Well, we're not
and
changing
submitting
the
them.
warrant articles in the
We're amending our motion.
Right.
We're
So
amending, it's the
town-
motion that amends it.
You could,
Town
I agree
council
with
came
what you're doing
before
there.
us a couple of
Your
years
motion,
ago
I'm
and
okay
said
with.
that, as long as we don't change the, you know.
I believe it
that
would still get printed like this.
Yes, it would.
Yes.
It
Yeah,
will get
our
printed like
motion would
this.
be
But our
Yes,
motion-
I thought we were talking about changing the title,
Oh,
a few
no,
other things.
no,
No,
no.
no.
This is the motion of the finance committee.
The motion will be.
I'm with you on that.
Mike, we cannot change that language. You're absolutely right. That's not our, unless it's something like a spelling
And your
error.
motion is perfectly valid. I agree with that. Yep.
Yes, like there was a spelling error somewhere that I already found. I
It was
had-
restoration.
Yes. Oh, good.
I'm also,
Captured it because it was all capitalized.
also wondering if we don't change department, later on, would the facilities manager or director or coordinator be a department? And be able to point to this as a justification? You did it before, why aren't you doing it again?
Well, at least in the next, let's take care of this article, because I'll ask the same, a follow-on question later.
Okay. Is there any other discussion on Article 13? All in favor? 7-0. Article 14, we do have Kevin and the STA
question.
coming on Monday, or Tuesday.
Did Jeff say that they had voted on all the community preservation articles?
Yeah, I believe so.
Okay, Jeff,
Sir,
did the selectmen vote on all the community preservation articles?
they withheld one on the $1,000 for the graveyard signs.
Oh.
They wanted some more detail on those signs.
In one of those where I think it might have been the one where we were going to get the right-of-way from OSV to do something,
Yes.
they had OVS in the box instead of OSV. So
Well, that's us, that would correct.
Well, the summary box
Did
is
they
us.
Correct that.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
they
but-
correct it?
That's our
Yeah, that's
language.
That would be us.
Well, it says OVS.
Oh, yes, that would
We're gonna probably change quite a few of
Yeah,
those
yeah.
summary boxes.
Well, that's already passed, but I caught that when I was reading it this afternoon.
I'll read it over the weekend.
Mike, I know you are a former selectman, and maybe you know on that basis or some other basis, and I'm thinking now of the selectman's authority to compose articles. If what you say is true, I don't know if it's true or not true, if it's true, and they either deliberately or without realizing it write something that is not necessarily outrageous or offensive or obnoxious, but there's something wrong about it. If they have that authority, would everybody be relying on first the town council to catch it, and then the attorney general, who reviews everything? Otherwise, the sky's the limit, so to speak?
Right, so the way I see this, the selectmen vote the warrant. They control the warrant and the wording of the articles. It gets posted for public review. That is what gets, our motion is what gets voted on. So if it's to approve as written, it's as written. If it's to amend as follows and vote, or to otherwise, there have been some articles where it's more than just, strike the second comma in there and otherwise approve. We're rewriting the article with slightly different language within the same content. Other ways to get through, whichever one gets voted. But if there's an article that's written by the selectmen, nobody catches an error in the wording. It gets posted, it gets voted as written. That's the article that the town clerk has to submit to the Attorney General to get signed off on. And if there's an error in it, you live with the error, or you go back and fix it.
Actually, the Attorney General only looks at the bylaws that are passed. They don't look at our other things.
But she's got to certify the vote at a town meeting, and that's what the
She does
vote
do
is.
that.
Somebody can't say, oh, they really meant to say this and then change the language going forward. That's what was voted in the language as was presented there to town meeting.
So it sounds, if I understand you, like if they do something that on second or third thought they wish they hadn't, and it isn't caught by a town meeting and by the town council, there it is. That's a lot of power. Where does that power derive from?
I'm going to go back to, that's the way Mass General Law is set up for the enactment of warrants and presentation to town meeting.
Okay. And you also
Board of
mentioned-
Selectmen's got a lot of power. They're the elected officials to run the community here. They have a lot of power.
An analogy is that they're like branch bank managers. They can do anything as long as it's okay with the home office. By analogy, that would be Boston. So they can't really do anything.
True. Yeah.
Well,
And that's why we have a process where they review it. We have, department heads reviewing it. We've got town council reviewing the warrant. There's a lot of eyes on that to make sure the really obvious problems and mistakes and errors are caught and corrected. If we wanted to change the wording, we didn't like it in the article, we could give the feedback to the selectmen, and before they, vote the final warrant, they can make those amendments and changes and clean those things up, to make our motions simpler, just to vote it as written.
and it sounds like the Finance Committee has a choice of recognizing a mistake and trying to correct it by amendment, or endorsing a mistake and knowing that that's what the committee is doing.
True, and if you realize there's a
Or
mistake in
simply
the
being
article.
unaware.
Right, if you realize there's a mistake in the article, you could, our motion would be that that town meeting approve, the following, and then restate the article with the corrections that we felt are needed in there.
So we can
And
change
that
it.
would be the recommendation. It's
Right.
their warrant with their language.
Right.
But our recommendation that goes to town meeting gets acted on unless someone amends our
So we
motion.
can change it, but only by amendment, which is, of course, up to the town meeting to vote.
Yes,
Right.
and we've seen that in the past. There's an article that comes forward with, typically what happened with a bond article. You put some language in there, and it finally goes to bond council. They come back later, they're changing the wording of the article to conform with a statutory requirement or, an alternative form of financing that wasn't, locked in when the original article was voted and put on the warrant. And you'll restate the article with the language that you actually want voted. That may be slightly different than what was in that voted article by the selectmen.
Thank you.
So there are ways to fix that.
Yep, thank you.
Kevin?
I also realize there's another mistake in Article 13, so I'd like to have a motion to reconsider our recommendation so I can correct it.
So moved.
Well, I thought he moved it.
Okay.
Oh, were you
Jim will
moving it? I'm
second
sorry.
Yeah, that would
We
be-
didn't vote on the first one, so can't you
We
just?
didn't?
We did,
Yeah, we
yeah, we
We
did,
just
7-0.
did
Oh, yeah,
7-0.
sorry, my bad.
So we need to
Make the motion, I'll
reconsider.
second it.
Okay, Kevin, reconsider. Jim, second, okay.
So what is it you're going to fix?
What is it you want to fix?
All right, so after this section of this article, and maybe we should rewrite the whole article with my amendment. It's the same amendment, strike the words estimated budget for fiscal year 2002. But after the section that with the line item detail, which would be in there, it should also have the words or take any action relative thereto.
There is, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Good catch.
It is,
like
but
that.
but we need to fix that too. When I amend it, I'm going to change that article around.
So there,
So
I wonder
it's
if
your
they're missing
original
on all
plus
of them.
and Take any action.
Or, yeah, after the line items, add the words or take any action relative
yeah.
thereto.
Yeah, you're right, it is supposed, it was in there last year.
So actually, both of them. It's on Betterment, but
So,
Well, but it's wrong, it's wrong on 14 too, so I need to fix it on 14.
yeah, you're right.
Good
Well, we're not
catch.
going to do
So
quick.
now we're going back to, the recommendation of the Finance Committee is to, so here it is. We did this in Article 14 last year. The recommendation of Finance, that the town, see where it says to see if the town will vote That the town vote to appropriate from, and you restate the article
Right.
with everything that you wanted, is what our
Exactly.
motion would be.
Yes, exactly.
Okay,
And
So in Article 14, I would just,
well, they are coming on Tuesday, so we can
Oh.
vote it then, but
Oh,
if
okay.
you want to
Make
write
a
yourself a
note.
note.
well, yeah, so I'd strike out estimated budget for fiscal year 20 there, and then move those words, or to take any action relative thereto after. You know, it should
Right.
say, you know, just like the one above, it says as follows, you know, 183, I'm sorry, 183, that's something.
Oh, wait a minute, there
That's
is.
Already in there.
That's a typo, that needs to
Actually,
be
or to
fixed.
take any action relative thereto.
It's in 14. Kevin.
Yes, but it should be after
It should be
after
in
the things,
money
wait,
part.
the wording is all wrong in 14, right? Because it says
Yes, it is,
18300. It should not say one, right? It's, there's 1,000.
Yeah. Well, maybe by next Tuesday it will be corrected.
Okay, then we'll leave it, and, because you want to say, just like the one above it, as follows, list the line items,
Right.
and then after it, or take any action in relation thereto.
duly noted. But we'll wait to vote on it until,
Well, Kevin and
But I've got
probably
the-
one or two members of the STA are coming. Yep. Whew. Okay, Article 15, are we ready on this one? Betterment Committee?
I'll make a motion that the Finance Committee recommend the article be approved as written.
I have a question. I'm not seconding. Well, I guess, well, wait till we get into whatever.
Is anybody going to second?
I'll second.
So I guess my comment is, why are some of these have what they're intended for, like special overtime police, special overtime fire, but the other ones don't explain what they're in use for? I mean, some of them are obvious and some of them aren't so much. You know, what it's intended, you know, what department is intended for, just like it's in the back of our book? Or is that just,
did we, I don't think we normally put that in the article, Kevin.
no?
I
Okay.
don't believe we do.
All right, that was my question.
It's pretty
Are
much.
you
like
checking?
that. There's a couple things with.
Because I
Last
always,
year's in
you see how the
front.
new one says department, what the item is and what the thing is? That's what I. but
Oh,
that's
I
okay.
gotcha. Is that the way it is in the book, Kathy?
Like it is here, yeah, pretty much.
He's talking about this here, right?
Any discussion? You have a motion and a second?
So, Kevin, do you mind, can you just show that again?
Well, like in the very next article, right, in Article 16, it shows you department, here's the item, and here's the dollar value.
But, you know, to your point, yes, yeah. I don't know, that's
And-
probably a
and-
good point.
Well, back to betterment though, but not everything on here is a department. Like Flower Barrels isn't a
But
department.
it'd be town-wide, like you notice, some say town-wide.
Well, that's tree maintenance, and I view that wording as, it's not specific trees, but it's townwide trees. It's not trees on a particular street or on a town common. It's a broad
It
use of those
pretty much
funds.
mimics how it was done last year, put it that way.
Okay, I'm just, you know, last year there was a lot of confusion at the town meeting floor on a lot of the intents, because there was a lot of not clear stuff in the book. And so I'm just, you know, if we can make it clearer, that's all I'm adding to me, but I'm not tied one way or the other to this.
Well, you make, I think, a good point for clarification. For example, special event, overtime, parentheses, police, but booking camera,
Yeah,
Yeah,
Only one department in town is booking.
we
well, the
hope.
library has quite a few of those.
That's a circulation.
I don't think they use a camera for booking though. Or at least they've never taken my picture when I take out a book.
So,
Never been
so
booked at the library.
Kevin, looking at the summary box, it explains where the funds come from, pretty high level, but it doesn't explain the process. If adding another short paragraph that kind of explains the process as to, you know, where these things are recommended and how they're sorted out, does that maybe help give a little clarity around what might be on that list and how they came about, or?
well, you know, having been involved, I understand exactly how they come about. I'm looking at this as the person standing in the audience is in like, so if I look at trail construction and maintenance supplies, who's that going to? Conservation, DPW? someplace else.
Recreation.
Trees, yeah.
Trails?
Yeah, yeah.
That's all I'm looking
Those
for
people have
clarity.
had the opportunity of reviewing this ahead of time, asking questions prior to town meeting, watching the finance committee meetings, watching the selectmen's meetings as these things are discussed. So there have been opportunities for public airing of what these are all about prior to town meeting.
Well, I see logging trail. When did we get into logging? I know what it's for.
Yeah.
When did we get into logging? Someone
Is
might
that
think
for,
that.
is that for the?
That's for the trails, to
Oh,
drag
yeah,
the
right,
logs
I
out of
would
the
have
woods.
thought right off the bat, it's a tree board.
Oh, logging trailer?
Yeah, it says logging trailer. I mean, that would beg for some
Oh,
explanation, I
that
would
was-
think. but, you know,
Tom explained that the other night.
I know, but I'm talking about a town meeting. If someone
Yeah.
sees that, they're gonna say, why are we logging? I mean, I'm just trying to reinforce.
Well, this is
Kevin
what we're
said,
here to
there's
do,
some
discuss
confusion.
this, and do you want to make it clearer or
Well,
not?
So maybe you ought to
Could-
give a list to Mike Caplet. He can have it there to explain it when he gets it.
Could we hold, wow, this is probably gonna get
Well,
shot down, but
here's what you could do.
Could we include an extra column to be consistent with the capital improvement plan that is similar to how we have it in our budget book, and then just hold off on voting it until it's corrected?
But there are different funding sources.
Well, let me give you another option. I would leave the article the way it's written, because it's nice, concise, as in terms of an article is here. But if you want that level of detail, in our budget books, for the,
Appendix,
for
put
the
the explanation in the back.
betterment funds, there's a broader definition, explanation for
too.
each one that can come out, and we can stick it in the back of our book somehow
Yeah, well,
as a level of detail.
Actually, just take what comes, in the budget package, put it in there and say, see Appendix D, explanation of betterment budget, if you want to do that, but give people the detail.
We could do that,
Jeff has a comment.
I kind of like the idea of having 3 columns.
yeah.
do.
You see
To be
what-
consistent to the eye.
Well, that, it does provide who at least the requester was or who the benefactor is. So let me see what we can do about putting it in 3 columns.
So we'll hold off on
Great.
voting for
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
until it's corrected? That way we don't have to do the amendment and we don't have to...
Right, that's true.
I have a question on this section, though, and I apologize because I wasn't here the day the police chief came, but I see that the various items that they were requesting, including the drone, is included in this.
Yes,
Okay.
So this is just to move the money, not necessarily that that item will be purchased, is that correct?
It would be purchased.
it would be part of the purchase.
So he didn't have to put in an article separate just for that? Because
No.
it wasn't in his budget.
No, no.
They're just paying for it out of
He's getting it out of this
He's
funding,
getting, because there's 3 categories in betterment, and one is
public safety.
public safety, beautification, what's the other one? Recreation?
recreation.
Yes.
Recreation.
So if the public
So it
has
comes
a
under that.
problem with 1 or 2 or 3 of these, that's their opportunity to bring it up.
Well, it's our opportunity too, actually.
We have in the past, we've struck things out of this article and put money into other things.
So have we talked about the drone as a
No.
committee?
No, we just heard, when he came, when each of the department heads came, they all touched on
Well, we
what
asked
they
some
presented. We asked
pointed questions about
But
it.
we didn't vote on the individual ones as they came, though.
No, that's
No.
true, that's true.
So we could, though, amend it to take any
Anything that we want.
individual one out.
Well, you would reassign the
But
money to,
reassign the money, though.
yeah.
So,
So that's a
I'd
fair
like to
chunk of
have a
money.
dialogue about the drone. And I don't know, I personally think that there's not enough protocols in place for protecting people's rights. I'm not sure that Sturbridge really needs a drone. I know we have, problems with public safety like everybody, but we're not necessarily a community that has a lot of issues where I think a drone would be worth spending the money on. We're talking about $15,500 a year. I know it's, a piece of equipment that's up and coming, but I'm not really sure Sturbridge is the community for that. I don't know how you guys feel about it.
The one thing, I even asked him if it could be weaponized, because drones can have weapons attached to them, or flashbangs and stuff like that, where they can drop. But the one thing that made an interesting point to me is that this particular model comes with a heat camera on it. So like if people are lost out in the swamps or out in the woods and that, where they could send this thing out there and look for people by heat signature, and probably make a more effective search than sending out 100 people in a line and walking through the swamps. That was one thing that.
One thing we didn't ask was, does the state police have a drone in Sturbridge, the Sturbridge Barracks?
I know he just kept referring to Oxford and Westboro.
Yeah, but those were towns, not state police
Yeah,
barracks.
I don't know if we asked that
No, we
specifically.
didn't, and I don't know why I didn't think of it at the time.
Yeah, I think that that's
Sorry.
definitely a benefit, but I mean, in the amount of time I've lived here, I could count on one hand how many times I've
Why
used
isn't it
that type of thing.
Noted.
And that's a lot of years, I'm not gonna tell you how many, but it's in the decades.
Why isn't it?
And I'm just not sure it's a good use of money, and I also have a lot of concerns about privacy issues. And when, I remember on Saturday when we talked to the police chief about that, he didn't have a real solid answer. He kind of implied that they're still not quite sure what the rules are gonna be and how that might play out in a court of law. So I just think it's premature, and it's a good chunk of money at this point.
I think on Saturday, and when he was here at our meeting, he pointed toward the use of it by several departments, 5 or 6 other departments. Conservation, I think, ZBA or planning, there were a number of them. Then I think Kevin raised the point of, well, then how many pilots have to be
Right.
trained? And if a cop is a pilot and the cop is engaged being a cop, can that officer be called off duty, from that duty, I mean, to do something for the, let's say, the ZBA? So that was in the air.
Yeah.
I don't know that any of those departments have confirmed that they would find sufficient use or even any use.
Well, we did ask Nelson, the
Yes,
building
we did.
inspector,
Oh,
and
we did?
He was skeptical.
he was skeptical, yes.
It would let him see roofs and chimneys and stuff like that, right? It's-
Yeah, he
Right.
said he
Yeah,
wouldn't, couldn't
that was-
imagine himself doing that.
And I think it's a good point. We're gonna have to pay money. This person's gonna be trained, they're gonna be specialized in this. And he did indicate that there was training
Well,
involved.
he said he put that actually in the operational budget. We don't really know how much that was, though.
So I'm not comfortable with it. I don't know how the committee feels about taking.
I don't remember what the answer was, but I remember, I think I asked the chief the question, is this type of a service in an emergency, we have a lost child or something available from the state police? And I think the answer was affirmative, that it is available, and I would imagine it'd be available quickly. If you had to bring in someone to look for a lost child in the woods or something.
Did you say available from?
From the state police,
Yeah.
do they have this
I don't think it'd be a
capability?
drone, no. I think they'd fly in one of their choppers.
Oh, they could, yeah.
Right.
But a drone, you can imagine, could be indispensable if there were a hostage situation at a school or elsewhere, and you let the drone, so to speak, tiptoe to the window, and you can see just who's who and who's where and so forth. But a state police
Helicopter.
aircraft could do that, too.
Well, and I would also go back to where we live. And have we ever had a hostage situation? I mean, I don't know. We may have. But
Well, the past isn't necessarily a
The only
predictor.
no, I agree, but to spend the money on an item that we have to train somebody for who may or may not be available to use it in other services in our town,
Think I should.
whether those are even useful
Absolutely.
based on the building inspector, problems with the potential for privacy issues and the likelihood of it being used, I just don't think, I think it's premature. It may be something that we might use at some point in the future, or have more solid answers on it, but I think at this point, it's premature to agree to spend that kind of money.
And when we got the books, and I made my notes in the books, the thing I wrote next to that one is Gild the Lily.
And actually, I think, and again, I
I
don't
guess
think
the
we
boys
asked
with
this
toy
question, but
syndrome.
I think when there was an article in the paper about the Oxford drone, I certainly got the impression from it was that they were going to share it with others.
So,
I think that's kind of what this is. It's a regional,
Oh, it's a regional?
so
contributing a drone. Other communities are contributing drones, so there'll be one available if it's necessary.
I wonder if Southbridge has one.
A mutual aid concept.
Kind of
I have a question in there, because one of the things that came up in that meeting when the chief was here for us was that he said next year there'd be a request for a second one for the fire
Right.
department. So if there's a regional mutual aid thing, why would we need a second one?
I don't know that level of detail, I just remember from the conversation that this was kind of a regional effort.
Well,
So-
again, I think we have more questions than answers.
Yeah.
In general, it seems like as we talk about it more, we come up with another question.
So I could go either way on this one. The arguments sway me one way or the other. I don't know that I'm firmly for or against, but I kind of go back to process. We have a betterment committee, which included the former, or the interim town administrator and a member of the Board of Selectmen and two others that kind of go through a process. So at least from a process perspective of, the town administrator and a member of the Board of Selectmen feeling that that was appropriate, plus a vote 4-0 from the Selectmen, and them feeling it was appropriate, I'm lean, that process kind of leads me to supporting this one, with my role here being just to say, do we have the funding mechanism to pay for that? Yes, we do.
That's not our
And we have
role.
a process.
Our role is to advise the town meeting
Yeah.
body. And
Yeah.
if we don't think, even though the process was followed perfectly, and, everyone else voted to agree, if we don't agree for it, we have the duty to advise the town meeting body that we don't think you should vote for this.
And quite honestly, I know we can't commingle these funds, but in the eye of the beholder, someone might look and say, well, this department wanted more hours, and this one wanted more of this, and this one wanted more of this, and we refused all those extra hours for people that need extra help, and we're buying a drone for $13,500? Where's the logic to that? And if you're the department person who wants more help, and you need $5,000 or $8,000, and you need more hours,
And this is a
and you look at that and say,
different fund,
I know you can't commingle it, but
principle.
I'm talking about the optics.
Right.
And they look at that and say, geez, we can get a drone for the chief, but I can't get
I also feel
10
like
more
this
hours a
is-
week at the library. I mean,
This item comes.
that's
with a
human
lot of-
nature. I know it may not be,
You could make that argument with a dozen.
Yeah, I know. but, I mean, I'm looking at the ones that are obviously,
I would make the request that if there are questions, have the police chief come back to discuss those. I'm not familiar enough with it myself to answer those questions. I think the appropriate person to have to answer those is the chief of police.
I mean, we did bring up some of these
did.
questions at the Saturday meeting. Certainly the privacy, I remember, we talked about the,
And it's not a question of needing facts to decide it. You just, having heard the facts and gotten answers to those questions, you don't support a drone. And if the majority of the committee wanted to take that out, then we should certainly send this back to the Betterment Committee to come up with another line item to use those funds, rather than we just strike that and underspend the amount of money.
We don't underspend it, we reassign it.
It
So you
goes,
could
it
put
goes
it
to the
where-
next
where-
on the list. There's a big list that goes. But, can I just, to kind of mirror what you're saying a little bit about the use of the drone and all that, and perhaps Oxford, do we not belong to the Central Mass something
It's
regional?
like a SWAT team, yeah.
So, if Oxford's part of that, and Oxford has a drone, why can't we, as part of that, shared group, SWAT team, have use for that one?
I think that may be what we're doing, is there's a collective group.
Sure, so if there's already one in the group, yeah, well,
So,
But again, I would recommend having the chief of police back to answer those specifics.
So I would say, that argument kind of goes, well, why should we spend money to have a resource in our town when we can borrow or use some other town's
that's the whole
resource and
idea of the
invest in
SWAT
it?
team that Kevin was mentioning, though, Mike, that, you talk to a state police, and it's the same
But-
thing with them.
But the SWAT team has members from each town
Right.
that uses it.
Each community.
That's
So
right,
Sturbridge has
but they all piggyback on, like, they're all there to help reinforce the issues,
Mutual
I
aid,
guess.
in a
Thank you,
sense.
my age.
And then it also goes to, we're okay with the use of a drone. I thought part of Karen's argument wasn't quite supportive of the use of a drone, whether it be one that we own or one that we borrow from another community there.
Right, and I'm also wondering why this is coming out of Betterment. I mean, I know we buy, fighter gear, and a booking camera, but we're talking about a piece of equipment. Why isn't this in with the fire trucks and the bed for the ambulance that we vote on separately so that the public has an opportunity to look at this piece of equipment? It's not a standard thing. It's not an everyday thing. This is a new thing that they want to introduce to our community, and I don't understand why it's a betterment, why it would come from betterment and not be put out to the public as,
I
As a
can kind of
separate
get that.
article?
It's a one-time expense, and this is a source of funds that is authorized to be used for public safety, and it wouldn't be included in the tax rate. This is a source of funding for public safety, and it's an appropriate use, so this is a place to go for it. But people, like you're saying, we can question this one thing, do we really need this? People can stand up and say, great, we want to amend it and take it out. I mean, but this is an appropriate revenue source for it. That's not a problem.
No, it's not, but
I mean, you could, it would be very hard to put it as a warrant article and say to transfer from, a hotel motel special account to this for a purchase, because
Well,
we usually group them all.
You can contrast this with the simunition that they're buying, because that's an ongoing thing, and that's a capital expense, whereas this is a one-time only type of thing. I can see the contrast there.
it just seems like we're not serving the public fairly by sliding it into a list of a lot of different innocuous kind of items when we're introducing something that some people may feel is not an innocuous kind of item.
Well, if a majority of the Finance Committee kind of agreed with your opinion, that could be something and issues for your consideration. Please know in the, Betterment Committee article, the town is looking to purchase a drone, and here are our concerns. But it would have to reflect the Finance Committee's position, because it's not a minority person report. It's the Finance Committee report.
But, to get back to Jeff's recommendation, maybe we ought to have the chief
should
come and
have.
talk to us, because then he can get into the fact of what other communities are doing, what other complications do they run into, what type of clearances, can this be construed as an invasion of privacy, and are we gonna end up with lawsuits because we're looking at someone's window and with the wrong location? I mean, there's complications there. I think we'd like to get
And
more
Kathy,
questions
just
answered.
for a matter of expediency,
Yeah.
I would only give him 1 or 2 dates and say, we need you to come back to talk about this date or that date, because if he says, I can make it in a month, it's too late for
Well, no.
us.
But who's his liaison?
Mike,
That'd be me.
So, might even
Mike
be,
can contact him, right, now that you're back?
I can do that.
Thank you.
I'm trying to find it on the list.
So we'll hold off on betterment. And
Safety drone.
just as a matter of,
Yes.
I guess, process, since we had a first and a second on both 15 and, I guess, 15, do we have to
Just-
rescind it?
Yeah.
You have to rescind your
Just
motion
rescind
to,
it.
Yeah.
but I didn't make it, so.
It was Mike's, and then Karen was second.
I'm willing to rescind
Withdraw.
withdraw the
we'll
motion.
have to, yeah.
I think they.
Make believe it never happened.
So it's okay to withdraw?
Yep.
They both withdrew.
Did we withdraw the other one?
The second has to withdraw, I think, and then
She
and
nodded.
then the motion.
Mike
I'm
withdrew.
pretty sure if the second withdraws, then the motion fails. for
Just
lack of a
dies,
second.
yeah, for lack
Oh,
of
they
a
both
second.
just withdrew.
And it's a nullity. It's,
Okay.
We're good.
All right, we'll go on to 16. The capital improvement plan.
That's right.
Before anybody makes a motion, does anybody have any objections to anything that's on the list here?
Just not reading it over.
One of the things, did anyone actually, I'm trying to do it quickly, but it's hard to do without, did we actually add it up and make sure it adds up?
The amounts?
I was thinking
We
we did that
we
on
did
the
in the
other
book.
two
I
as
didn't
well.
on this, Kevin, but we certainly can.
There is a typo on nursery school there, Jeff.
So
Needs an
it's-
R, the second R.
Oh, yeah, it says nursery school.
It says nursery school.
How am I missing that?
It's 5,650, it's about six
Fire
six
alarm
down.
monitoring for
Yeah, I see it.
the nursery school there.
Nursery school.
So actually, I believe we can correct typos.
Yeah, usually
Yes.
typos. And double words. Sometimes you see and or the.
I don't know, unfortunately, I left my capital improvement plan in
doing
the
it.
car
Oh,
or
sorry.
somewhere. Really don't know where it is at the moment.
You don't have one on your phone?
I take it that a mid.
No, I mean, I'm
dump-
on the committee.
A mid dump truck is a mid-size dump truck? Is that what that means?
I think it's in our book. I
It's-
didn't take our book because I
Its capacity is
think so.
term of art or standard in the industry, maybe? I don't know.
Let's see.
Let me check.
395, 557, the math adds up.
Oh, good.
Can you clarify that?
Well, this is better. Let's go.
I should know that, being on the committee.
Yeah, it just says mid dump truck.
So it goes.
It's like, it's not, I know what it is. It's kind of like a little bit bigger than the pickup truck size one.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
don't
not
think
those
it's
big
it's not a
monster
huge one,
ones.
though.
I don't know if that's an official term, though, going to your point.
I don't know if it's capacity or horsepower or some other.
It's usually capacity. So maybe we could, get a little more detail to clarify it. It is kind of, people will ask, what's a mid dump truck? Because we had bought, if you remember, a mid sander thing because it dropped the salt and sand in the middle of the truck rather out than out the back. And there was a difference there.
That's right.
Probably missing a word, should say mid-size.
Okay.
Oh, it's in our book, it says mid-dump
too.
truck,
Mid-dump
too.
My notes from Saturday's meeting says mid-sized dump truck
That's what I would say, but
that
I'll
Butch
check that.
mentioned, yeah.
No, it says mid there, too.
Let me see if I do have that stuff. Oh, wait a minute. I do. See if there's any more info. Let's see.
What you looking for?
Does it say it in here?
It says mid.
But we
So
spoke
I
about
would
it and
say,
you said
I'm used to
mid-size.
vehicles being,
It's mid there, too.
especially trucks like this,
Oh,
weight
this says
size,
mid-dump
1 ton,
truck
2
too on
ton,
this.
10
It says it
ton.
here in the
Well,
detail.
okay.
But Saturday, when Butch spoke, he said mid-sized dump truck, and I wrote that down. So is that not something that we can correct?
So here's what I would say. I don't think this is the final article. I think this is, the original one from the selectmen. They have time to refine this and vote the final article.
Well, it
Part
depends.
of the
They
big
already
post-
vote to close it, so now they have to vote to open it again and go through it all.
I don't know. Jeff would know that he was there today. Did they vote to close the warrant?
No,
Oh, there you go.
I don't remember specifically to close a warrant. They added a warrant to it. They voted to line in the budget. So,
Okay. So it's still open, so
Yeah.
they can make a change.
If They could do that. Yes, they could.
Yeah, they'd have to reopen it, go through that whole process.
So can we hold on this until they revise this as
Sure.
well?
Yeah,
Okay.
why not?
What?
So it's just a description issue, no issues with the dollar amounts or
Okay.
things that
No.
are being bought, however.
Oh, yeah,
they
does
wanna
anybody
call it.
have, now that I found my stuff.
So what does your truck say as far as the capacity size or size of it? Because like Mike was talking about 1 ton,
I
2
looked,
ton.
I looked in there.
Simulation is grand.
It, right here, it says,
Maybe simulation is.
F-550, so it's an.
4x4,
yeah,
regular cab
F-554.
chassis.
Yeah, so it's a really big pickup truck. Dump truck
I think
wide.
it's a
I
2-ton.
don't think it's a pickup, it's a dump.
It is a
Yeah, but
dump
it's on a
Regular
pickup truck body, but
They're buying the chassis with the dump on the back, yes.
9-yard dump,
Yeah, it's not a 10-wheeler, it's a basic.
and it has a dump body.
dump body.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's not a-
I have the detail here.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just go. All right, skipped a lot here. Article 17, ambulance stabilization fund.
That's an annual expenditure. I'll make a recommendation that Finance Committee recommend the article as written, that the town vote to approve the article as written.
Second, I have a question. Of course, you know, where are we in our 7-year replacement schedule? It says it is a 7-year, and if approved, but we are how many years away from purchasing a new ambulance?
Oh, I think we just bought one.
You just placed,
Well, they were, for a while, they were 7 years apart. Then we had an accident with one, and they were only 1 year apart. So are we back to a 7-year schedule, or what
so
are we
in my
doing?
discussion with the chief, he had indicated they had just placed the order for the new ambulance. So there's a new one in the works right now.
Because last year we took money, we put money in, but we also took money out to buy it.
Yep.
So this is for 7 years from this point, or
Yep.
next year to replace the one that was bought 1 year after we destroyed the one and screwed up the 7-year rotation?
I don't know.
We can find out.
How many do we
I
have?
Sitting on my
Two,
desk.
we have
I
two.
have them too.
Okay, one of them's brand new.
One of them, they said just put the order in.
Yeah,
We-
we got one on
It was,
order.
it was in last year's, or the current year's.
And really, it's, it's not, doesn't affect this, vote on this
No.
article. It's just, we should add that to the box, saying,
Yep.
with the plan to
Include
purchase
that,
another one in fiscal year 2025 or whatever.
include that specific, I agree.
Well, that's the box, so that's not the
I will
motion.
write that down.
So last year, we put,
Yeah, or another one gets damaged, yes.
so last year, we took 132,000 from the ambulance stabilization fund and $175,000 from the capital fund to fund a new ambulance.
Right.
This says 306 total. I think he said the final price tag was like 280 or something. So we're funding that.
Yep.
I know I've got a list on the side. Oh, I think.
And
I
then
think
we had a
showed in the
stretcher
appendix
that
as
we
to
had
where
to-
we are with the balances in each one of the
Right.
funds. But if you want to make it clear in a box, we usually put that in there
It is
at
on the
the
box,
end of
yeah.
this one.
It does say 126,000.
Yep.
Yeah. I
If
know.
approved.
My question is when is the next one scheduled to be purchased? Is it next year, or is it 5 years from now?
Right. And I think last year we bought a stretcher to,
We
We
did.
did. We did at the special town meeting.
Yes.
and we were told that that would outlast the ambulance that it was going to be used in because it didn't have that.
Well, I wrote it down, Kevin, so we'll find out the answer, so we can put it into the summary box.
So
Yes, so
fire's
does
mine.
that-
After I call the police chief, I'll call the fire chief, and I'll get you couple of sentences that, we got one on order from last year's articles, and then the next one is expected when.
Okay.
Is Barbara feeling better? So she's back. So we can just get the specifics from Barbara. The dollars.
The dollar amounts are in the box.
The dollar amounts
Oh,
there.
is that accurate? I wasn't sure.
Yes,
Yeah.
I assume it's accurate, yeah.
Trust that.
Glad I brought that yellow book, Mike.
I've got this in a folder, I just didn't stop at the house and pick it up on my way in, so.
All right, any other discussion on Article
Yes,
17?
It's Andy.
All in favor? 7-0. Now we have the fire vehicle stabilization fund, which I believe was that new last year?
We did it last year.
I don't know if that was the first time last year or not, but
I think last year was the first establishment, yeah.
So last year's,
no, I guess not, actually, because it.
last year's
has-
fire
page
vehicle
28.
fund, we
But-
put 100 in to bring the total after that to 200,000, so
Oh,
this
so
would
I
be
think it
year
was the 3.
I think it's in the special town as well. Right, didn't we have 2 articles on this one?
Page 27 of this book has the ambulance
Right.
stabilization fund, and
Yeah.
it shows 64,000 in the fund.
Yeah.
Was there another article in the special?
Well, I'm looking, this article on this one, it's 100,000 on page 28. but
So is there a motion on Article 18?
I make a motion to approve.
Nothing in special?
Fire stabilization fund.
No,
Is there a
last
second?
year's.
Second.
No, there's nothing in
Any
special.
further discussion on,
Just one question.
Right. Oh, you had a question.
Do we just happen to know what the next truck to be purchased is? Is it another ladder truck? Is it a pumper? Because I know the ladder trucks go into 7 figures, where pumpers are mid-6 figures. Do we just happen to have what we think we might need, or?
Can you find out?
you could find out, yes. I don't know what,
I think this is a great idea, by the way. This is putting aside a chunk of money for something
But
that
those are
could
very
be a
expensive.
$1 million plus purchase. Will save us a lot later.
Well, we just bought the,
ladder?
the
Yeah, the ladder truck's relatively.
ladder truck we bought.
Oh, so that was a used truck.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
that's-
The original one was a used one, so we replaced our used one too? Okay.
Yeah, the ladder one was a used truck, yeah.
It was,
Gra-
under
grass
regulations, it
over-
was no longer legal to use it.
Yeah, that wouldn't,
Once the extension ladders reach a certain age, metal fatigue, and it gets to be a question of, yeah, you can't,
Right,
you
yeah, it
couldn't get it
wasn't certified,
recertified.
that was one of the problems with it. Okay, any further discussion on Article 18? Not, all in favor? 7-0. That was Kevin and Karen. Okay, Article 9,
I had a question on this one. Last year, we put $100,000 in, and this year, we're putting an additional $200,000 in, and I was just curious.
Well, I'm also concerned here, Jim, too, is that 100,000 of it's coming from the tax rate. And now, this goes into, I thought we were like $80,000 from, according to the board, from our property 2.5 levy limit. We added 7,000, so now we're like $72,000 away from it. How can we appropriate another $100,000 without an override? Right? We're right at our levy
Well,
limit.
perhaps she calculated that in before she gave you the number, and we
Well-
were not a levy limit.
So she's got two forms of funding here.
right.
Raise and appropriate means it's coming from the tax rate. It's going to be added to the.
That's 100,000, yeah.
Right, and that goes against our Prop 2.5 levy limit. But our book, our budget packet says we're $89,000 from the levy limit at the beginning of the
I
budget.
believe when she did that calculation, she
I thought she did,
included
too.
all
Did she?
the warrant articles.
Okay.
They're in
I
the
thought she
bottom
did, too.
left-hand
I
All right,
thought
that's what I'm
so, too.
missing, okay.
I think that came up, didn't it?
Something that is, I think, valuable to know is that Standard & Poor's was very careful to compliment the town on its action on this very point, noting at the same time, Standard & Poor's just, that a lot of towns just don't.
Right.
Yeah, she has OPEB funding here.
They don't at all, but that was my question. Why are we doing the additional 200 this year when
So
finances
She
are
has it
tight?
under
down the
the
bottom.
Money's tight, and we're gonna go from 1 to
Included,
3.
Yeah.
It's included.
Anticipated
And-
articles that were going to.
You know, that's maybe the extra 200, you do that in a year when money's not quite
I
so
don't think she
tight.
would make that mistake.
No.
That's all I'm
I
thinking.
missed that. I
I hear you.
didn't look in that part.
Because if that's a reserve, and once you spend it, it's gone.
I actually like this particular document a lot. This used to be my Bible during budget season.
That particular page?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do have a question. Why the need to raise $100,000 on the tax rate?
That's the
What-
way
what-
we've actually been doing it. Last year we did.
Yep.
Raise and appropriate, 100,000.
Was it?
Yeah, Article 21 last year.
Okay.
But I guess to Jim's point, why is it 300,000 this year?
Well, we do have an $18 million obligation, and we need to try to show good faith that we're trying to get there. And I don't see a problem, because I agree with Larry, this has always looked good for us as far as our bond rating goes. They've always, applauded us for taking action where everyone else is gonna wait for someone to step in when when everyone retires in, 10 or 15 years.
I wonder if this is the point that needs to be balanced. Putting 100,000 against the tax rate, or without doing that, putting a question mark over our bond rating and paying much more than 100,000 on all of our bond issuances.
And there's foreseeable bond issuances coming.
That's right. And this is 1 year, one time, but these are 15 and 20-year obligations.
Well, this isn't 1 year, one time. We've been starting to put this away, I forget how many years, but
I think since
we're
11.
working this into our budget to continue to fund this thing.
Without question. I misspoke, I guess. This 100,000 is 1 year only. Right, here, now, that's what I meant. But the obligations to be weighed against the impact on the tax rate can run 15 and 20 years at a higher rate we would have to pay to become attractive.
So I guess my question still is why 300,000 and not just 100,000? And Jeff was gonna have.
Jeff, I think right now.
The original proposal was 500,000 from free cash.
Oh,
The concern was, and the reason for that is it was to resolve or answer a couple questions. I agree with you, I've done bond rating calls and everything else. OPEB is a big deal. It's a big deal. So the fact that we're funding something is a positive. And there was, I guess there was a concern that the free cash number has been going up. So this was a way to reduce the long-term liability and spend down some free cash.
Okay.
That's kind of where it was. The original number was 500, we knocked it down to 200.
oh, okay.
Yeah, exactly, Jeff, because then the question can be turned around, which is, how come you're sitting on so much free cash? You got to be careful that you don't lose because you win.
As opposed to paying down your debt.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
So is there a motion on Article 19?
I make a motion that Finance Committee recommend the town vote the article as written.
Is there a second?
Second?
Further discussion? All in favor? Thank you, 7-0. Article 20, tax rate relief. That was last year, what was that? Can you refresh our memories there, Mike? Might
So I
been
have a
3.
question, do we still have plenty of free cash as we come on up to this?
Well, we want into this year at somewhere over $4 million, and I'm trying to think of where we
I
are.
think it was closer to, I'd say in here, I thought we were closer to 5 million, weren't we, on the free
It
cash?
was a,
We ran a projection,
No, I mean, this year, it is, I think, around
it
5
was
million.
4.7.
4.7.
Yeah.
That makes it.
4.5, 4.7.
Because we raised it.
Projection on if all the warrant articles were approved with the free cash, let me get the number.
I thought it was in here.
Because we raised this last year from 250 to 350, I believe. Does anyone else recall that happened? We went from 250 to 350 last year.
Last year was
We did.
350, it's on the back page.
We did, we
Last year was
waited.
350.
350.
Yeah, we
But
waited.
last year
for
was,
the
I
last
think
one.
we increased it last year from
It was definitely
250.
increased last year.
From the prior year, I think 18 was
It
250.
was 250.
It was 250, yeah.
There's nothing wrong with that, I'm just saying that we raised them.
Well, I remember holding off voting on the article until the Board of Selectmen
Might have been a
decided.
separate sheet of paper.
Yeah, and they were very much in favor of
Yeah.
that. I think Mary Dowling championed that.
At 7/1/18, we had 4.7 million of free cash.
There's a page somewhere with all the detail.
I know, and I can't
remember
find
seeing
it. I know, I'm not finding it.
Which begs the question, Jeff, why did you lower it from $500,000 down to?
Excuse me.
That was
Well,
open.
because when we ran all the warrant articles, we got in the mid-twos,
Okay,
so that may be too much of, there's a magic to all this.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah.
So we hope to end the year somewhere between 2.7 and 3.1.
okay.
And there's a history of, we got a history of the free cash balances It's only been in 17 and 18, that we've been over 4 million. 16, we're at 3.3, 15, 3.0.
Right, and and unfortunately, it's kind of a misnomer because it doesn't really show you what percentage of the budget that is. Because for a while, we were like 0.2% of the budget free cash. And then we worked our way up toward our financial policies say. We should.
Okay, so is there a motion?
I thought we had it.
No, not for Article 20.
I'll make a motion to approve this.
Is there a second?
Creep over on you.
That's okay.
Our
Second.
seconder went to the bathroom. Any further discussion?
Want to give her time to get back so she can vote?
Oh, yeah, we can.
Well, we're doing that. I have multiple copies. Mike made copies for everyone generously, but I have multiple copies of page 17, page 21, and page 25, I believe it is. So if people have, like, I don't have page 15 and 16, so if someone has multiple copies of 15 and 16, I'll gladly trade one of my multiple copies.
I haven't any
15,
copies of
16 in the back.
What do you have? What do you need?
I need, I have 13, 14, and then I go to 17. I don't have 15 and 16.
Okay, I have an extra 15.
Well, there's the extra one if you want to look through there.
But Karen's back. We can keep adjusting later on.
Who's on first?
I need a 17, 18.
These are 17, 18.
Oh, boy, who collated this?
I did not hit the collate button on the machine. I had to do it manually, and I didn't do a good job.
And I also have the same problems with, like I said, 21 and 22.
19,
I have a
20.
22.
26, I have.
I have 22.
It's a
You wanna
good thing
pass?
they
Oh, I
know.
have 21 and 22.
Oh, I have an extra one.
So what I would need is like 19 and 20.
Okay,
I don't have.
here you go. Here's 19,
I feel like
20.
we're trading.
I need 21, 22.
All right.
Yes.
It looks like you two.
It's a good thing the pages are numbered.
I'm going to use my
I
computer.
got
I'm good.
23, 24. I got an extra 23, 24.
I need that. So. We're good. Thank you.
My head is spinning here.
Are you keeping track of this?
Okay, we're on Article
Karen,
20. We
we-
have a first and a second. Any further discussion?
Tax rate relief article, Karen.
All in favor? Thank you.
We'll get there.
You think, huh? All right. Going on to Article 21, Capital Stabilization Fund, another stabilization.
This might be the one that I think was in special town meeting as well, right? We had to open it and then we had to
This
fund
one's
it.
fairly new, yeah, though.
I think we
This
did
is
because
that
we were
1/2
changing
of
the name of
1% we started
we were
doing a few
changing the
years ago.
name of the
Yeah.
account.
Yes, we changed the name, I think.
Right. I knew there was something to it.
I'll make a motion that we recommend town meeting approve the article as written.
Second.
Any further discussion? Again, this is just saving, saving, saving. All in favor? 7-0. Okay. Article 22 is one of those normal ones, the reval interim adjustments. We budget $40,000. I believe this is a 3-year, every 3 years we do the reval. Is that correct?
It used to
like
be
that.
every 10 years, we did 1/10 of the town, and then we started over. So I know, I
Maybe
had heard
that's what
somewhere
it
that
is.
that changed.
I thought it
Or is this the one where she does a portion of the town every year?
no, I thought that we did it this way so that you don't get the hit in the reval year.
So it's accumulated,
It's accumulating, yes.
because we did 40 last year as well.
No, yeah, we've been doing 40 for several years now, yeah.
So can I,
Motion to approve the article as written.
second.
Any discussion, further discussion? All in favor? I will vote. Okay, Article 23, revolving fund spending limits. As you might remember, last year there was a new general law, which I think we had to accept.
Got an extra O on the first word.
Where's that?
Oh, yeah, yeah, two. Me too, the very first word.
Ooh, see.
Oh, yes.
Pretty, and it will be Tootsie.
So that instead of having to approve the revolving fund, we approved a bylaw, and so now all we have to do is do the limits, the maximum expenditures for each revolving fund. Unless, of course, we're creating a new revolving fund, then that, I believe, would be a separate vote.
These are the same as,
This is Article,
There is, yeah, I
This-
think they're the exact same.
as
amount.
last year.
yes.
So I'll move the motion to accept as written,
There's a-
Article
What is-
23.
What is the CPR? I'm trying to,
Right, I want to say that's fire. Am I right?
fire has one, right, with hazmat?
Yeah,
rules.
I think fire has CPR. How would I know? Let's see.
There, I'm looking for the article, again, I pulled it out separately. That explains what each one of these is. That's not here.
Yeah, I think that is a fire one.
I'm going to pull up a previous.
It's not in there, it's not in your appendix last year, right? CPR and house numbering aren't in here, so what they do?
House numbering is fire,
It's fire.
and I believe CPR is too, Kathy, but I'm pulling up
Yeah.
the
I
one
think it is,
prior.
too.
So CPR is fire.
So they were both new last year?
No, no. The
I
house
think it-
numbering and fire, they came in fiscal year,
Might have been 2 years ago.
yeah, what do I have? So this is the warrant article from 17, so that's 18? Fiscal year 18.
So
So,
is that the one that explained what the account is used for? I know I've got something like that.
I don't think we have to do that one anymore.
We
once
don't
we're
have to
set
do
up.
it anymore.
But it's not in your appendix.
No, it's not.
Okay, so
We don't have,
where, what, and how are these funds used for?
well, I'll tell you what they are, because I have the one from 2000, fiscal year 18, when they
Okay.
came. And CPR is all costs for the support of the CPR classes offered by the
Oh, that's
Sturbridge
right.
Fire Department, including replacement of training materials. Program fees and donations go into the fund.
Okay.
House numbering, all costs for the support of the house numbering program offered by the Sturbridge Fire Department. Program fees and donations go into that as well.
And those are those, I don't know if you've seen, you may have seen
Yeah.
them, or you might have one. They're reflective and they're a nice size.
I've seen them in certain houses, I don't
They're
know.
red.
but I
The
have
White
seen
on
them.
red, yeah.
So
Yeah.
this was fiscal, so this is the warrant, June 5th, 2017.
So even though we don't have to revote those funds each year, I thought it all fit on one page. I can picture it in my notes at home.
We don't have to do that anymore, Mike. That's
Yeah, we
what
don't have
Kathy
to
was
do that.
saying.
But as an appendix, since people are asking questions here.
We can
as to
do
what-
that if you'd like.
Yeah,
We
I'd
can
put
do
it
that.
as appendix.
We can do that.
Yeah. Thank you, Mike.
That was part of the Municipal Modernization Act of.
Yep.
Of whatever year, 2016. There were a number of things that were amended. Actually, we changed some other things last year because of that act, not just that. But anyway, so, Article 23, we have a first and a second. All in favor?
I missed the first and second, if you wouldn't mind, just because.
Oh, it was Joni and Karen.
Thank you.
So you voting in favor?
I am.
Oh, so that's 7-0. Thank you. And then we have Article 24, the General Code Codification Services, which I believe the Planning Department has asked for several years and never actually
Is this when they
made it.
put the books together? Is that what it is?
Yeah,
And
and
online.
it's online. I think before it was only the zoning, and I believe it was our suggestion to also put the
So
general
this is the
bylaws.
one where you have the zoning bylaw, and there's changes that are always made to it. So this is a service that will keep version control over your documents, still also assist to make sure that things help you with the wording as you're making those changes, so that there's a version control system, so that there's the correct wording of these bylaws that are available to the public and
Right.
folks in town after they're voted. We had this discussion last year of, well, we're gonna do it just for zoning. We've got general bylaws, we got a whole bunch of other rules and regulations from various departments. If we're putting the system together, wouldn't we,
Is,
kind of migrate everything to it, so Gene took it back and added the general bylaw piece to it, so that you'd have not just the zoning bylaws, but general bylaws in this third-party system assisting with version control.
Does it also show the history of changes, sort of like the family tree, in
Yep.
a sense?
The town of Charlton, I don't know exactly where you put it, but if you go to their webpage, and there's a tab for zoning bylaws and others, and you can kind of click through to see how it functions from an external point of view.
So was theirs done externally? I know Southbridge was done externally,
I
too,
believe they're
by
only
one of
using,
these
if not
services.
this service, a
Yeah, there's a
very
number
similar
of the
service.
services, but,
so,
yeah.
Is,
we pay, I'm sorry, we pay $15,000 for a third party to manage our bylaws that change very infrequently. So this is gonna be an annual
Oh,
cost.
no, this is the first one, and I believe that there then is a
There's,
yearly cost, but I think the initial cost is.
so the initial
15.
cost is to take your bylaw, go through, put it into the system, kind of make sure it's formatted correctly, index it, go through the first, review, make some comments and suggestions on things that might need to change or reformat and so forth. And then there's an ongoing maintenance fee.
And how
It's in the book. I didn't see it. Probably $2,000 to $3,000 a year, something like that.
Yeah, I think
That would be
Gene might have said it was
Depends
around,
on how much changed.
But it doesn't change that often. We don't generally,
Then it won't cost much.
Right. The planning board brings an article or so a year, maybe a couple of articles. Sometimes they're lengthy, sometimes they're short. There's a lot of things in there. General bylaws don't change as much, but planning board, if they're being proactive and changing to things that are revolving around them.
it's not the
they're
planning
welcome.
board, it's sponsored by the Board of Selectmen.
Again,
It shouldn't come from the planning board.
I think originally it came from Gene.
the recommendation was
Planning board
coming from the
before.
planning board, but it got, over the course of the year, came back to incorporate general bylaws as well as the planning
So
bylaws.
why wouldn't we incorporate then in the town's constitution, I forget what it's called?
Charter,
Oh,
Charter?
part of the bylaws.
Oh, it is? Okay.
So I understand why she's trying to do this. I know last year we were looking at the fire alarm bylaw, there seemed to be like 3 different versions of that floating around among town hall, which is the right one. But I still have the same concern I did last year. There's an ongoing amount of money for this that I would think that we'd be able to have version control on the final document that gets used and released after town meeting votes are taken. We do have support from town council, I think, as we're drafting changes to the bylaw for them to help us make sure it's organized right, put in the right spot, reviewing conflicts. I can see the benefit we would get, the clarity, the consistency, the ability to truly control the versions that are made available for folks and people to use. So we're not looking at 3 slightly different wordings because somebody's out of date. But
So
I don't know why I would want to spend the money to do it.
this is done on our existing systems or maintained by a third-party system offsite?
Third-party system offset.
And how consistent is their API with our existing systems?
When you click a link, and the last city I worked in had this, and so did the city prior. On your website, you'll have town code and whatever you call it, bylaws. Click that, you'll be taken off-site to Code Publisher's site, E-code. And then you can look up whatever you want.
And it would look, you have the manners and everything
Yeah,
else. It
yeah.
makes it feel like you're still at the town Sturbridge website, but
What's its uptime availability?
What's that mean?
Like, if I want to look at 2 o'clock in the morning, am I getting a 99% time available for someone in the public to access? How, or is it down for 20% of the year? In this day,
General Code Publisher is probably the most sophisticated and the longest-serving codification system in the nation. Their website's up 99.99%.
yeah, it can't be up 100, but I'm willing to take a
Yeah.
very high percentage.
And I could go online and look up a half dozen towns right now and see it. down very infrequently.
Well, you're making me feel better because you're saying this is kind of a nationwide entity, it's not some local place. It only has 3 towns. They have-
No, I use code publishers in New York, I used them in Alaska,
Yeah.
used them in
And when Gene,
nationwide.
I think if
There's
you,
other smaller firms.
there
that
are
do
other
it.
smaller, yeah. I think if you even just Google, I don't know, municipal codification, probably a few would come up. I don't think there's a ton of them, but
Say Southbridge uses them?
and
uses
when
something, I don't
Gene
know. which-
provide, the material Gene gave us last year, I'm having a hard time finding this year's.
I don't see a link on Southbridge, I was trying to find that.
There were a number of towns in the Commonwealth that had it.
Oh, yeah.
As I said, including Charlton, I checked them out. It's a very easy-to-use system. You get all the changes. You get a particular article, they note exactly what article, what fiscal year, what town meeting, what article that particular section was voted. You have that history. Maybe to help Gene out here, I know the planning department typically would get a request for when did this particular article or section of bylaw go into effect. There's a lot of research that goes into finding that, making sure you're giving the right town meeting article reference to whoever's making that request. The system will have it in there already and certainly clear up the research time now.
I guess I'll go to Jeff with your, so it also would include mapping? So all the maps to just show us districts in that? I mean, or is it just the language?
Zoning code, it would be included.
Okay. So it can identify and track changes to zoning maps?
I don't know. I don't know what we've asked them to do.
So I just pulled up the minutes from last year with, when they were talking about it. Last year, there was an item, it was actually in her operating budget for $8,000, 8,000 and change. And actually, Jim questioned it. But she says, or the minutes say, it was a service to clean up bylaws, check for redundancies, stylistic errors, evaluate for legal issues, and make the bylaws flow as they should.
So not the maps, just the actual language of the bylaw?
Correct. And then, again, why not open it up, broader scope to include other departments? And I think that's probably why it was thrown out last year, and perhaps that's why we're seeing a larger amount this year.
But I would believe if you changed the map, you would create a new PDF or other image file for that map that could then get stored on that web page that you would then be able to click the most current version of the zoning map.
Yeah, it's an I believe, though.
It's kind of Weathersfield, eco.
Is this a one-time expense to get it all set up? and
So the
then-
large,
Yep.
I'm looking for the,
But there's an annual maintenance fee.
is that yours? I don't know who's I keep borrowing, sorry.
Depends on if you ask them to.
Oh, okay.
It's a one-time large expense to get this set up and do the whole editing, review, cleanup stuff, and then there is an ongoing annual maintenance fee and hosting fee that I thought was $2,000 or $3,000.
I don't think it was all that much.
It's about
I
$3,000.
do have one, I guess, additional question, because, I'm the technical guy. I guess if Jared was here, he might ask the same questions. In a way, it's almost like adopting SAP. If your business has ever gone SAP, you have to change your business to adopt the SAP model.
Correct.
Would we have to change our verbiage, our wording, our definitions and all that to map to the model that they use?
You may have to re-adopt the numbers, how they're sequenced, how they're organized, but any textual changes, you would have to use in text. They're gonna organize this for you. And I don't know what we've used so far, but sometimes what they do is they send you back a body of law based upon your existing adopted ordinances, and say, re-adopt this in this format, and then that gets published on.
Okay. So if our definition of like a house doesn't happen to match their definition.
Oh,
No, they
no,
don't do that.
they wouldn't do
They
that.
wouldn't do that. If they tell you, you've got three different definition of houses, pick one.
Okay.
Or if it needs to be separate, make sure you've identified.
So it's our wording, they put it in the system, as part of that, they're reviewing, as Jeff says, use the word house 3 different ways in here. You've defined it this way, it's your town, that's your language. you're using it in this context 3 different ways, seems a little inconsistent, here's something you do to clean up. Or, you've got a couple of paragraphs of stuff in 3 sections of the bylaw, there's a formatting issue to clean it up, make it easier to understand, only put it in there once, and I'll make some formatting suggestions that then come back as a town meeting warrant article in the future and say, we want to, adopt the following and get town meeting approval to do that.
And I like Jeff's position that you've worked with and and you have faith in it, because I'm still got lots of questions because I'm technical, but I'm willing to go forward because I think in the long run, it does have benefits.
Oh, I think
I think it
it does.
provides the user of the code continuous access to the most recently adopted legislation this town has. Historically, particularly in small organizations, you have someone in the organization, the town clerk, the town administrator, somebody that's responsible for codification. And I used to be a city clerk responsible for codification, and they would sit in my office till I had a free weekend, and I would sit there and try to do that. Here you send to the code publishers, bang, 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 it's up and running in a week on your website, ready to go.
And that saves a lot of time and effort on.
And people get the most recent version, and they won't come in and say, well, I went online and this one says this, oh, well, we adopted something last month and you need to get conflict. You don't get that. And it's legislatively correct, organized properly, cross-referenced, indexed.
And if the planning board makes we get an article approved that changes the bylaw, then Gene's got to go back and say, now, what is the controlled version of that file that's on my computer? Because I now have to change it, reformat it, make sure I copy it word for word exactly how it was approved in here, and then make that available to everybody else versus a slightly different version in there as well. So that's where you get the version control aspect of it.
And obviously, it's available on your tablets and telephones as well.
Oh, yeah.
It looks and feels like it's a town webpage, you click and say,
Well,
bylaws.
it's
and
important because you're in a meeting, you're gonna wanna look it up.
It's just that if you go to the Charlton one, you click on the page for bylaws, and there's a long list. It's not just planning and whatever, there's a long list of stuff in there that's easy to follow through.
Yeah, I think that anyone who works with towns or building or whatever would find it very useful.
Well, this would go a long way to solving some of the anti-business belief people have, because our bylaws were pretty Byzantine. People were all over the place, and different people in different departments had different versions. And so this is a good thing. This will make it consistent for everybody, whether you're a resident or looking to become a resident or looking to start a business here.
Just the name of the company.
Exactly.
Well, we can still pass Byzantine bylaws and put them in there and have the PDF up on the town website. We're just eliminating the town employee having to make sure that they're making the right updates to the right prior version, so that the one that's posted is the complete, accurate, comprehensive version that's available.
Yes. That's right. I think there's great merit in having it done. It would be very time consuming for the town itself to ever do it, that's for sure. And these are people who do it every day.
Yeah.
That's their job. So, is there a motion on Article 24?
I'll make a motion to approve it as written. Is that what we're saying?
Yes.
Okay.
Second?
I do have one more question. What's the severability clause with it? So if we decide we no longer want to do it, do they deliver us a digital version of our bylaws?
You basically want to own the product when it's done.
Yes.
I believe we'll make sure that the contract provides that we're going to get a hard copy.
Yeah,
No matter what.
but then we're back, we want a digital version too.
We'll negotiate that in the contract.
Sorry.
All right, we have a first and a second, Kevin and Karen. Ooh. A and K. Any further discussion?
Thermoforming, so never mind.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? 6-1.
I'm going to abstain.
Oh, you abstained. Okay.
almost talked myself
I'm
into
sorry.
it, but I still,
511.
511. Okay, sorry, I missed you.
I think there's a lot of value, but I still have a hard time with the expenditure.
You did a good job selling it then.
Yeah, I thought you did too.
See that coming?
Joni was opposed, Mike abstained.
Just curious.
Okay. Article 25, Personnel Classification Plan. That is that study we've been talking about for non-union employees.
Is $20,000 enough to cover it? We know that.
This is getting scary. You keep asking my questions before I can
Oh.
ask them myself.
Well, he speaks into the microphone, so let him ask up.
That's good. That's a good idea.
You know that, Jeff? Is $20,000 enough to cover this
I
expense?
believe Ted got a quote from a service based upon something very similar they did, so that's where the number came from.
You might have gone through the Collins Center at UMass Boston.
I don't know.
So the one item not covered in the box that I'd like to see included is, it's coming up, create a salary schedule. That means this position has a low end of this and a high end of that, and however you want to do it in between. But I'd still like to see a review of elements of compensation, because I'm still of the mindset that, you know, we have a salary schedule that includes steps for employees. We have the annual longevity pay. We have general wage increases that go into those salaries every year, and we have that merit pool. I think we have one too many elements versus other towns that are in there. So to come back and say, this position in Sturbridge is here's the low, here's the high, and it's the same as these other 5 towns, but those other 5 towns don't have one or more elements of those other compensation elements, then we're paying more than the other towns.
So Mike, this isn't a compensation study, this is a personnel classification study, has nothing to do with compensation. It's how the job is just, right? It's a job description, and it's how we evaluate the non-union people. It has nothing to do with department heads and all that.
And it's creating a plan with a salary schedule. I just want that
So,
salary to
as part
also.
of the personnel committee, we go through when we do a job description, we have very specific things that we have to check off in order to place them properly into a payment or grade, whatever, grade level. So that is part of the classification of the job.
Yep.
So my understanding from our last meeting is that this study is going to help with that particular piece of the personnel classification.
But it does not include the department heads, so
It's non-union, right, Jeff?
It's non-union.
It's not
but
department
not-
heads.
Not department heads, so
Correct.
there's only a few departments that have, there's only like 40 or 60 employees that are non-union.
Yep.
Of the entire town.
Yep.
Where?
I don't know the entire
Library.
scope of what most priced. I'd have to find
I
out.
thought this was for departments, because we're seeing, the building inspector keeps thinking he's should be
It's a department
classified
head.
differently. Conservation thought that their salary was not competitive. I thought
They're
it was
department
including
heads. They're department heads. It has nothing to do with this classification study.
That, this is
But
part,
to Mike's point, I was under the impression that we were going to do a study that was going to address the department heads,
Right,
but
I'm
this
just
is
telling you-
different.
Correct.
This is not
This is my
that.
knowledge of the personnel
Okay,
study.
so this is for-
It's non-union, it has nothing to do with department heads.
Well, I guess it can be whatever we want it to be.
Because if
We
it doesn't
believe
cover
that
department heads,
there's
there's got to be
X,
another
Y,
study.
Z. I just don't know the entire scope of what was intended for this $20,000. If we believe there's other elements that need to be looked at, we can include those in the RFP and see what the prices are.
see, this is kind of, I guess, a legalese thing. I mean, to me, non-union employees would include department heads because they're non-union.
I was
If
thinking,
Ted was here, he'd probably
See,
say exactly what was in it.
But see, I disagree. To me, a department head is a management position. Everybody rolls up to the manager. Managers aren't union.
well, but that's what it says, non-union. I was thinking that myself, that it would have included the department heads, because they're
But
not
management is
union.
what I'm, but management people are not historically union
It does
or
include department
non.
heads per borough.
Ah,
Does.
Oh, it does include department heads?
Yes.
And we would have two different, one for
Then I would
management.
rephrase
I
that.
mean,
And
I
typically-
know they
Right.
can't
That's
be
what I'm
in-
saying, it may not be worded
Right.
exactly the way what's intended, so we can work on the verbiage.
Maybe we should,
And typically, when you do this, you go through the process that you explained. I agree that's the process you follow. And then you typically go out to your comparable communities that you establish as the ones you want to compare yourself against, and you try to figure out what we pay a finance committee member in Sturbridge versus the other communities that we think are comparable to us, to see how they pay those versus.
That's not how we
versus-
do job descriptions, if that's what you're asking.
No,
Again,
but-
that's not part of the job
That's
description part.
compensation. But
Yeah.
this is job descriptions as well. And it's a,
I agree.
Just a note to that, if you're going to bring in an outside agency to do these things, then you're going to have to provide them with job descriptions or
So why don't we
develop
do-
job descriptions in conjunction with them so they know what you're looking for, so they can make a comparison with like positions in other communities.
So-
And there
so
are
like-
organizations that do nothing but this.
so like Jeff said, we can make it as whatever you want.
Yeah.
I'm only saying, from the last meeting, our discussion on it, and we had the same questions at the meeting about the study. But as Jeff said, it's something that we still have to work on, we still have to,
Yeah, we believe
Provide
that
the
there's an
parameters.
issue with compensation,
right.
we can include that. If there's an issue with job description, we can include
Right.
that. If it's the issue where, should this person really be reporting to that person, reporting to this person?
Correct.
Or should they not be out on their own? All those things.
And a lot of the discussion was around the process of placing the non-union people into the right grade, et cetera. That is what we do. So that's like more important. And then, so, I would say compensation depends on what that,
What is classified?
right, what it's classified as. So it's really the process,
And
Jim.
making distinctions, because you run into situations that I've heard from different managers that, how come my administrative assistant makes less than this administrative, and they're all over the place? And the fact of the matter is what's the skill level and the scope
just
of the
did one.
job?
We just did
What's
one,
the scope
yeah.
of the job, and what do you have to have for qualifications,
And that's one of the things that this is supposed to address.
Absolutely.
But to Joey's point, it also is going to provide, we hope, and the expectation is, a process of maintenance of this system.
Yes.
Because over time, things tend to get away from the original intent, or out of whack. So this would also provide us rules for maintenance of the system.
Jeff, if you know yet, because you're still kind of shiny new, I can imagine you wouldn't maybe know this yet. Let's just say that the article passes, the company's engaged, they do their work, and they deliver their report, including recommendations. And those recommendations have a dramatic impact on the budget in a salary reconciliation way. So with those four corners, do you know if the selectmen have thought about what they'll do without knowing anything more than it could be a very dramatic report, which itself could create high expectations, and then sometimes gravity takes over, and with it, emotions. So with all that in mind, where do the selectmen, if you know, where do they stand? Have they thought about the future?
At least they've not had that conversation with me. My recommendation to the selectmen in that event would be, and to the employees affected, I think this has to be a multi-year implementation. We can't take a huge bite of an apple, we have to take it in little chunks and come up with a manageable plan amongst the affected employees.
which,
That would be my only way to
Sure.
address that.
sure,
Or,
exactly. And that would take place in the context of slow-motion turnover anyway, with new faces. It could be retirement, it could be resignations. Life gets lived, and so the multi-year could have somebody coming from without and perhaps being compensated with literally no town experience in more than a peer who's been here, let's say, 19 years.
well, what we're seeing, and I agree with that 100%. And what we're seeing in the municipal employee marketplace is a shrinking of the marketplace. For many reasons, less and less people want to work for government. A, there's too many jobs out there in the private sector where you can make more money. And B, there's a lot more to working for local government than working in the private sector. Let me just put it that way. So the employee pool is shrinking, so, basic economics, you gotta pay more to get somebody. So you're seeing that, and I think that's what you're talking about. If we went to get somebody, we have to pay more.
Yeah.
So to create equity, we're doing this, right? Our existing employees, based upon the current market conditions, not compensated appropriately if we had to go out in the marketplace to find somebody. So that it's gonna identify those issues as well. And how do we then take a 19-year employee who is underfunded in the marketplace, per the marketplace, and what do we do to get them to a market? Or do we just say, which I don't think anybody wants to say, is take a very good employee who's been very loyal and just say, well, if you can make some more money somewhere else, go. I don't think that's the message at all. So I think that's the purpose of the plan, is to resolve some of those issues and come up with something that's manageable and sustainable.
So well, I guess you say you don't know yet whether the selectmen have even contemplated doing column addition over 3 or 5 or 7 years, and then they practically have a stroke. They haven't even thought about that, I gather.
They've not had that conversation with me.
At
They
least,
may have
okay.
had, I don't know.
Yeah, okay.
So, but that's what Leon's plan last year was. He came up with the min and max on the schedules, assuming they were appropriate for each position, put in the steps and started moving people towards that over time to max out in their positions where they haven't necessarily had that opportunity in the past. There are many employees, I'm sure, both here in the town hall and working elsewhere, that feel that they're underpaid for what they do and the value that they bring. We don't know what the results of this are going to be. It could be, we've got the salary scales right. That's the way the market is. And that's where it is. It could be that 1 or 2 positions truly are in the wrong position one way or the other and need to be adjusted, and we need to come up with a plan to get them on the right path.
The perception and the actuality of fairness, I think, is almost the center of gravity of the whole thing. I guess we agree, yeah. Otherwise, you get running skirmishes, and things that are irrelevant suddenly become weapons.
Fair and consistent.
Yeah.
Remember, fairness is a 4-letter word, right?
Sure.
You're never really going to get everybody to believe that everything is fair. You're going to do the best you can to provide equity. Whether or not someone thinks that's fair, that's subject to.
And that's where consistency comes in.
Fairness and justice kind of go hand in hand. We're looking at equity for similar pay for similar work. Really, that's what you're looking at.
So-
Right? Are people that are doing the same jobs getting the same pay? They may do it in different environments, but basically it's the same job. Are those matched up? And that's where we come up with equity rather than fairness.
Do you know if the RFP will ask whether there are seemingly biases against women who traditionally in the town hold certain positions where there can be $10,000 and $20,000 and more dollars a year less paid? Senior center director, for example, I'm not singling that individual out per se. I'm talking about the position and the salary history, whoever holds the job.
Historically, this position has been held
Yeah.
by women,
Yeah.
therefore, this position historically has been 20%. I don't know if we could, I mean, I would hope we could say what the job is worth, rather than what it, you know, rather than that other element, right?
So
That's
it makes no difference if Mary Smith or John Jones holds the job, the responsibilities, the accountabilities, the scope of the work, and so forth, to the penny should be the same, whether
I
it's
agree.
John, Mary, right.
You pay the job, not the person.
Yes, that's right.
So this is Pandora's box. I like the way you phrase that. This is Pandora's box. I like the way you phrase that.
You phrased
know,
that
because
well,
it could
rather
have
than opening
high-
Pandora's box.
Right, and people have high expectations, and I think with any, you know, I've done these before. You're gonna have some people that are okay with the outcome, and some people that don't like the outcome. It's just the nature's way.
Yes, Kevin?
So
Early
I-
communication.
Will part of this, will we also receive the rationale of how they came up and developed whatever they're gonna propose to us? Because in the past, and I don't know if it's still this way, but we had the 10 comparison towns. 5 years after we adopted them, we compared them again. 3 years after that, we compared them again. You know, we were always questioning, and they always seemed to be applicable. And those 10 comparison towns also worked their ways into the union contracts. So the rationale that applied for how we were determining our non-union people worked their way into our union contracts. So, I mean, I'd hate to see our rationale change completely for our non-union people, and then
Fix that.
what's that downstream effect going to be on union contracts who are kind of developed in a similar method? Will we have that rationale from them, I guess? Instead of, here's what we say for you, well, we went and compared these towns, we compared these, will we get that type of information as
Well, we're
well?
gonna ask them what's gonna be their rationale for determining what they believe to be the right pay grade or pay level for these positions. We're gonna ask them to provide what their rationale is.
Right.
Not theirs.
So we would have that as part of the final document. Here's how we
We're gonna have
came
that
up with
part
our
of the RFP
determination.
response. They're gonna tell us how they're gonna do this.
Okay.
And if we like that methodology, we're gonna pick that firm. If we don't like the methodology, we'll pick another firm that has a different methodology, right?
Okay.
Because they're gonna have to tell us how they're gonna get this information.
'Cause that may factor into lots of other decisions along the way. You know, that rationale that is picked.
But we don't need that detail in order to set aside $20,000 to get the process going? Or do we?
Well, yeah, because again, you want to be able to tell people, here's what you're spending your $20,000 on, and here's what you're getting. Because this has lots of ramifications. I mean, it looks really simple on paper right here,
does.
but the impacts could be pretty dramatic.
And on that, I'm actually not going to approve it because I think there's an awful lot of questions, cost being one. You know, is this going to be an ongoing cost to the town until, you know, like you said, if it's going to be phased, is this going to be phase one? And then next year we'll have another 20,000 for phase two, and then phase three. So I think there's a lot, and no offense, Jeff, you weren't part of that. You weren't part of this, right? And we talked about it at the personnel meeting the other day. And I think you totally should be, at this point, pushing this. And I think now that we have a committee with schedules and all that, perhaps some of the questions that came out of our meeting could be incorporated to maybe revise this and set this aside for another time. I just think it's incomplete, perhaps?
Well, I think different people have a different understanding of what the expectation of the product is.
Yes,
right?
yes,
We've not
yes.
coalesced
Sounds
around
like
a product.
Yes, and we did at the meeting. You know, we all, I think the three of us, not include, you know, me, myself and the others, we had different views as to what we were hoping to get out of this, and we just didn't know if that's what we were going to be getting.
But I don't think we're gonna spend another $20,000 with a consultant after this. The phased cost is gonna be, and again, these are
If it's
numbers.
implemented.
If it costs $300,000 to implement the study, we break that up into three 3 years and say, okay, we're gonna pour.
Sure.
That's where that ongoing comes.
Yeah, okay.
The one question too is, right, I mean, really, the funds for this particular study don't come available till July 1st. So you still have time to formulate your questions and do that in order for the RFP to be developed.
But
when
we
they
don't
go up.
even, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think Jeff even knows exactly how much money this is gonna cost. Depending on what we want out of it, it might be
Could be.
more, it might be less, right? Now, we can go less than the 20K, but we can't go more. So, that's an unknown.
Well,
So
we
do you
could-
want
we
to give
could-
Jeff a little bit more
special
time
town
to come
meeting, we
back
could
with
open
what he
up more.
thinks he needs for a number in this article? I mean, I was viewing this as we appropriate a certain amount of money that could then be used to address all the issues you're saying before they go ahead and engage somebody. They get the right RFP, they make sure that what they're asking to be done, it suits the needs of the town, and the method is one that they want, and leave the execution means and methods to Jeff and the committee. But they have funds to move forward should they get a proposal and a plan that they're all comfortable with and want to move forward with. Or do we wait and have them go out, have the committee go out, do that, give us an RFP, get some bids, bring back a specific plan, tell how much it is, and then we'll find a town meeting to bring it to shortly after that to get you the funding. I don't want to be in that position. I'm okay with saying we need I'm okay saying we need a classification study. It's and leave the details to them, and if we want to know what they're proposing along the way, maybe we can ask for some feedback and see how it's evolving, and provide some input if we feel it's going in a direction we're not comfortable with.
Here's what I'd be afraid of with that. I understand, I understand where you're going with it, but I wouldn't want us, let's say to get what we really wanted cost us $23,000,
Yeah.
right? I wouldn't want them to go for the slightly lesser study because they only got 20. I'd want to come back for the extra 3. And so we got what we wanted. Just because the town authorized 20,000, I don't want to say, okay, that's all we're gonna spend, when we, for 3,000 extra dollars or 5,000 extra dollars, we could get what we really need. That's what my one caution would be.
If it comes back at 23 and we authorize 20, could we give them a reserve fund transfer for the extra 3?
No,
Or saying have to go back and
because
stop
it-
it?
It's not unforeseen.
No, okay. I agree. I get you.
I just like,
A minute.
We got to keep a lid on that reserve fund,
just a comment. I think this $20,000 is more than sufficient for what you're going to be looking at. And I think the companies that do this, or the agencies that do this, it falls under a guideline that if the amount that if it's over a certain amount, you have to go out for bid to do something like this, I believe.
Well, they are.
They are.
The RFP is.
But if it's under a certain threshold, you can just ask for prices, and you can select, you don't have to pick the lowest bidder. You can take whoever you want. If it's below a certain threshold, you have the discretion to pick the one you want. Because that's exactly how it worked for the town administrator search.
I know 3 companies that have done this.
Yeah,
A couple
sure.
of them done it for me already in different spots.
And most of the information they already have.
Most of them, and again, how many site visits can we do this electronically?
Yep.
You're gonna come visit the personnel committee 3 times.
Yep.
How you structure this also affects cost.
Do you know if the selectmen have contemplated the possibility, not necessarily the probability, that a cost push cycle could be created this way? A study is conducted, delivered, and the implementation is underway for non-union. The unions take one look and say, well, and on their next contract, they point to the implementation stemming from this 20,000, and then it all shifts over again, and the distance between the least paid and the most paid in the department, getting the gaps and the space and so forth. My basic question, however oddly put, is, do you know if the selectmen have thought about that?
Again, we've not had that conversation with me.
It's not an
We talked about
argument.
the study, we talked about some disparity perceptions, and that was it.
Well, it's not an argument not to do it. I'm just wondering if they think about consequences, so they can prepare themselves.
Well, again, this is cyclical, right? So going back to what we said, the money will be available until July 1.
Right.
So we're going to issue the RFP, we're going to do the RFP back sometime August, right? You're going to be well into winter before you get product. You're going to implement a piece of it in next year's budget. Any impacts are going to be in next year's budget, unless you have immediate capability to make adjustments, which I don't know we have, other than hiring someone in a vacancy, right? Any wholesale adjustments you're going to have to do with budgetarily, right, in the next year's budget. So those impacts you're talking about are 18 months to another year away. Plus, we have existing contracts with the unions. We can't make adjustments in the pay scales until those contracts expire. Some of them will, of course, in the time, right? So you just have to see. And if they want a compensation study, then again, that pushes it out another year post. So,
But all these,
do I believe this will end the conversation in Sturbridge? No.
Oh, no.
No, not a bit.
That's for sure.
but all these concerns are based on the worst-case scenario for the outcome, and we might find that on the basis of the surveys, we might have to fine-tune or tweak things here and there, but we may be well within the ballpark of our peer group. And we may not have a budget issue, because we might be able to say, okay,
Somehow I.
we're there, or we're so
So-
close, it's,
Gotcha. So I'm not sure where we're going here. Are we going
Just
to
move
have
the
a
steps a
motion to
couple of
give him
slots
some
and we're
money
good
to
to
maybe let him move forward with this, in which case we do this? Or are we going to ask him to come back and answer some of the questions, at least, is 20,000 enough? I think that's the only question we can fairly ask him to come back with.
I have to say, you've allayed some of my cynicism, though, because like a lot of plants in this town, that we go out and do all this work, they just kind of sit on the shelf. You're actually planning to do something with it, so I'll give you credit for that.
I certainly hope in my tenure here that I clear off the shelf of projects.
that would be
Or
wonderful.
That would be my goal.
Or specifically studies, we get a lot of studies. We have a lot of studies. Yeah, right. And again, my issue is, it's a little bit about the money, but it's also about, what it is that we're trying to do with this study, because I'm looking at it completely different. I'm going to tell you right now from every single one of you guys.
No, I'm with you 100%.
And I'm
Once you
on the
get-
personnel committee.
Once you get that table and say, the town planner is a grade 6, and the town clerk is a this, and the fire chief is that, and the librarian is this,
not.
you then assign salaries to that, which was what comes out of here. And how we gonna compensate?
It's more than that, yeah,
Below
exactly.
department head that, again, how similar is the work
Yeah.
between grade and grade 4 versus grade, it's incremental, infinitesimal differences between that, and we're.
And also keep in mind that we're going through the process of evaluating all of the administrative assistants to be consistent. So right there might clear up quite a bit of the discrepancies with what's going on in town.
That and the department issue was the
So-
genesis.
So Jeff, here's where I'm going to go. I'm going to assume that the $20,000 is enough to get it done. If you need more, get to us before town meeting. We can always amend, the motion and recommendation in here if it's enough. But I assume that 20,000 is enough. You're certainly getting the feedback from the Finance Committee. We have a strong interest in how it's done and the elements that we can be kept informed as that moves forward, so we know what's happening. But I would make a motion that the Finance Committee recommend that the town vote to approve the article as written.
Second. I also have a question, too.
You've already had a lot of questions.
Well, I want to know,
You say that every single time.
You've already had a lot of
just assume I
questions.
have a question.
I do,
Does this include the town clerk and the assistant town clerk? Because are they considered non-union town employees? Because it's an elected position.
I don't know.
Well, the assistant is a regular town employee, but she's not elected.
She's appointed by the clerk.
Oh, that's true.
I guess I would leave it up to her if she wanted to be part of the evaluation.
I'd like to have it included, but I was curious if it was going to be included. I would,
So the background is, being an elected position, the issue is, does she need to go to, make a motion as an elected official to get a salary increase or change at town meeting? Or should that position, even though it's elected, fit into a salary structure, that they know what they're running against or what they're getting paid there? And we don't put them in a position, have to stand up there every year at a town meeting and ask for, $5 more than what came in here.
We
And
might
that's
get
what
a-
would be helpful to have as part of this study.
That may be clarified as part of the survey.
Or select would say that we have incorporated the
Exactly.
clerk into the pay schedule and adjusted her as we would otherwise.
Yep.
Um,
We saw that.
But it's not written that way. So I think some effort over time to figure out how you really want to treat an elected department head, a working department head, in the pay plan and the personnel rules needs to be a conversation.
And that may be a byproduct of this, whatever organization we use may have information, because I was here for part of the meeting today, and they're talking about how town clerks are elected. And in towns, they're elected by a general election. But in a city, they're elected by the city council, elects the city clerk, is elected by a council of 10 or 12 councilors. That's how it's done in
I
cities.
believe some towns have even gone to appointed town clerks.
They may
Yeah, they have.
They
Yes,
may
they
have.
have, yes. Because I believe that
But who's
many
but the
towns used
appointing
to
board is generally the
elect
city
treasurers,
council.
and now they're.
In a city that's
Generally,
appointing
yes.
is used.
By the city council.
By the
yes,
city
that's
council.
correct, yeah.
Kind of curious
That
as
just
to what the
happened in
outcome of that
Framingham.
vote's going to be.
Just having a wall.
Kevin, did you,
I second it.
For my
no,
sister.
no, did
Framing,
you
I was
ask
gonna
a
say,
question?
I did, about whether the town clerk and the
Oh,
assistant
yes,
town
that's right,
clerk was
that's
going to be
right.
included.
That's right.
Because I think that should be
He's asked so
part-
many, I
off
can't
the hook.
remember.
I warned you the other day, if I left this early, I'd be able to go through a lot of this and do this.
All right, I was in
We're all
court
ready to
this
vote.
morning. I actually work occasionally
No, I know.
during finance committee season. Sometimes it's very tough. Anyway, any other questions, comments? All in favor?
Sorry, I'm so sorry, my bad. I was listening to what Jim said. What did you ask?
We're voting on this article for
voting.
20,000.
Oh, I'm not, yeah, I'm not.
All in favor? Opposed?
Who first did and seconded?
Mike and Kevin.
I tried to distract her,
Kevin had a
but
question.
it didn't work, and she still got the vote no.
I'm my representative.
So Kathy, did you want to keep moving on, or did you want a motion to adjourn for the evening here?
I'd like to do a few more, but I think I might pick them myself, not necessarily go in order.
I
might pick the ones that-
Kevin won't have any questions on.
That we might just get through without really more than one question from
Sewer
Kevin.
project debt.
Yeah.
You know what? I actually like his questions.
Oh,
I
I do
didn't say I
too.
didn't like them.
Oh.
Around
And I think
8:30,
it's
9
good
o'clock, though, they get.
conversation, And I'm glad, so that way I'm not the one getting yelled at for asking questions.
Definitely not doing water and sewer
No.
rates study.
No, sewer
No, we can do
I'll
the,
give you a safe one,
Yeah,
sewer
we're
project
not
debt,
doing-
it's a safe one.
well, can't we do the water department and the sewer
No,
department?
because I'm going to amend them.
Oh, God.
As they say,
Make sure you let us know ahead of time so we're
Estimated, they don't have
prepared.
your reaction after all the line item, after all the things.
But you, are you saying that sewer project debt is safe?
Yeah, oh yeah, that's what I'm telling you.
All right, let's go to Article 28
As a
then.
matter of fact, I'll make a motion to approve Article 28 sewer project debt as written.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Keep pumping out those seconds, Karen, don't give them any time.
All right, let me see what else here.
Decommissioning well two.
Wait a minute, Article 29.
No, we're picking and choosing here.
Oh,
We're picking and choosing
She
right
wants
now.
ones I'm not going to ask about 1,000 questions
That we can get
about.
through, so that maybe we can be out of here by 9:30.
oh.
The hour is late.
So that we know the ones he has a lot of
Make
questions
your
on,
motion.
we cannot come that.
Okay,
night.
Article 31, decommissioning well 2, wherever that may be. Where is well 2?
I think it's one of the ones that are out behind the, there's two of them out, the road that goes down to the school job with the DVW garage. I think it's one of those that have been infiltrated there by the top water,
Uh-oh.
if I remember my history right.
And that comes out of the water reserve balance,
Mm-hmm.
fund balance. So who would like to make that motion?
I'll approve it as written.
Second.
Any other discussion, further discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Okay, let's see.
Is the Fisk Hill Pump Station
That's safe.
That's
safe?
safe?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay, I'd like to point out, and this one I believe, I could be wrong, The last, in the box, the last line, I don't think they meant portable water. I think they meant potable water.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're probably right.
I don't think they're gonna carry it around in a bucket, are they?
Well, we don't know. It's from the 1930s, so maybe that's what they did next.
Okay,
But I think well, we can correct that on our own.
okay.
So is there a motion to approve Article
So moved.
32 as written? Any other discussion? All in favor? 7-0.
Geez, betterment payoffs looks pretty safe.
Why
That's
is there so
safe,
much
too.
money? Is it for fees to the registry of deeds? It seems like a,
Who's this?
number 33. I mean,
That's a lot of money.
it's a lot of money. I mean, if you're just recording the release, it's $75
Yeah.
each. That's a lot of $75.
But are you doing it for every property along the line, so
We're
you have
doing that
multiple?
record liens and things like that.
This is to dissolve them.
Oh, just to
It's
dissolve.
usually
them.
$75
It is
per.
75 bucks.
This one I had questions on too, we might as well get some answers in line.
Yeah, we'll check on that one.
Another safe one's Article 45.
Where are we here? What about Article 34?
Full-time.
Full-time
I
change.
think she changed it for this last election. I
She's
think,
been doing it for the last couple of elections, but without a bylaw change. No, I think the last few have been at 6:30,
My question is why?
Because people need to get there
because
before work.
people
yeah.
commute to work and probably would need to go early.
Okay.
Or-
But it has added cost.
It does have a cost, of
Yeah.
course. it does.
30 minutes.
30 minutes.
Well, not necessarily. She could stagger the help that she has, where she has
Yeah, I don't know
some
how
folks coming in half hour early, going
she
sooner, and
could.
then, you know,
Because it's not going to be that busy at that hour. That's a management issue for her.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't really noticed that,
She's already done it, so it's not like we've seen anything different in her budget.
she's done it for at least 2 elections
Yeah.
Okay.
that I've noticed. So is there a motion to approve it?
I'll move it.
second.
Mixing it up here.
Any further discussion? All in favor? 7-0. Great, okay. Let's see, where are we, 2021? I don't know, Article 35, is anybody
Well,
gonna have a problem with that, or?
Just one question. Would that mean we would have to change the town charter so that this is an official commission appointed by the Board of Selectmen, or however they're appointed?
I don't know how they're appointed.
I wish I had the book. Larry, the charter,
Advisory board for the board of selectmen.
there was a very specific list, but it gave the authority to appoint other committees as appropriate in there. So we didn't have to go back and make a charter change every time we felt that there was a need, or a somehow required a new commission in the town, right?
I think that's just been answered when he said they're what was the word you used? Advisory to the
Advisory.
Board of Selectmen.
Yep, okay.
Such commission shall research local problems of people with disability, advise and assist municipal officials, coordinate with carry out programs, review and make recommendations about policies.
You might want to get some of that,
5-1 in cities.
Joni, you might want to get some of that definition and just add a little more meat to that.
They're
box
appointed by the
instead of what they do.
selectmen,
Appointed by the selectmen.
unless we have a town manager, but we have a town administrator.
Well, I mean, I had the same question, like who is it,
And
who
what do they
and what
do?
and all that. So I think that should definitely be in the
The
summary.
majority shall consist of people with disabilities. One shall be a member of the immediate family of a person with a disability, and one member shall either be an elected or appointed official of the town.
Where are you reading that, Kathy? The minutes?
Mass General Laws, Chapter 40, Section
Oh,
HA.
okay.
Of course.
So we'll take some of the information from there and write it in
Yeah,
for people to understand?
Yep.
oh, it's pretty long, actually, here. But some of it, oh, and they can receive gifts, too. Okay. So it is appointed by the selectmen, and it's an advisory board to their appointing authority, which is the selectmen.
So I'll make a motion that the Finance Committee recommend the town vote to approve the article as written.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Yes. Any further discussion? No questions, huh, Kevin?
I
All in
asked my
favor?
questions.
Opposed? Abstaining? Karen, did you vote?
No, I'm sorry, I got distracted. Elliot's
How
hungry.
how did you want to vote?
Yes or no?
I'm in favor of it.
And here I thought that you were looking up the law there.
No, he's like, I'm hungry. Is there anything in the fridge? I was trying to respond.
Let's pass down one of these.
But her son isn't here. Okay, let's do one more and then we're out. How's that?
Thought she was hungry.
Oh, she's probably hungry too. Let's not do the zoning one.
Article 45.
Jeez.
Whoa, whoa.
He's been reading ahead.
Otherwise, everything else has got wife for questions.
45, you don't think 45 is right for?
I don't personally, but
That's the local excise on retail sales of marijuana.
I mean, we're not approving retail sales, yes or no. We're just saying, if it gets approved, we're gonna add a 3% tax on it. It's just like a meals tax.
And Jean, I don't.
What do you mean? We've already, we already approved a
We
retail
approved that
sale.
last time, and I know that Jean has mentioned there are one or two locations that are currently looking to establish retail within the town. So this says, if you go through that process, get approved and set up, we're going to add the local tax to that as well.
I mean, we already do meals tax and hotel motel tax, why
That
not?
was part of that whole argument as to why would we put that in the zoning thing? Well, if it comes to town, there's a new revenue stream available to us, so.
That's right. Is there a motion?
I'll prove it as written.
Second. Give it to Karen.
I like my seconds.
I know. Well, it's easy too, KK. Any further discussion? All in favor? 7-0.
So does that make us the K block down here on the board?
Yeah, are the K block. So I am a K as well. I'm not a block.
He's the tax.
All right, I think we did pretty well tonight.
Right. I'll just state up, Article 46 looks to be a petition article.
Looks like a what article?
It's a petitioned article that's just looking
Oh,
to support.
yes.
If we vote to approve this, I don't know what action we're approving there. I would think our motion would be to appropriate in some fashion $55,000 for this purpose.
No.
If we vote to approve the article as written, we're saying we're going to give you a letter of intent, but we haven't really authorized the funding that may or may not come in the end. So that would be something for us, that I would be looking to have a discussion on when we bring this up next time.
Simply, we want to get some component here if you know who the petitioners are, because otherwise it's like
Yeah.
no action.
Oh, well, maybe we could find out who exactly it is.
I think there was some discussion on this at Conservation Commission. Also, the other thing I'd like to know is, this can only be a portion of it, because half the lake is in Brookfield.
I'm sure they're going there too.
That's what, I'd like
I
some
would think so.
clarification.
And Jeff, if you're making additions on the STM, there's several articles missing sponsors, if you could get to that.
Okay, let's see. We have no reserve fund transfers. We're up to date on minutes, except for this week. Any new business? Old business? Public access, motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor at 9:26?
No discussion, Kevin?
Favor.
I thought
Well, thank you,
there'd be some
7-0.
discussion on the motion to adjourn. A few questions, maybe?
You guys are really fresh,
Oh, yeah.
actually.
You gotta love it.
Happy Easter,
sure I take every hit
Passover,
I
and
can in
whatever you
with.
may celebrate this weekend.
I can feel those code daggers over here, Jim.
You gotta-
Jeff, welcome
grandson
to
tomorrow.
Sturbridge. Finance Committee here.
It was probably much easier the last few years.
Yeah, if you were here 2 years ago, you would miss Kevin. He took a break, he took a hiatus.